theory. Come on now, that's the first thing I tried. Yeah, and it's also on top. Tilly and I are all sitting. So if you want, it's Chili for Chili and then I'll tell them that there's a here too. My only chance is adding these. Thank you.
Not interpreter caption. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
So there's a camera feeding up. Um, for the folks on Zoom, so we have it on Zoom, so it's gonna be the captioning, text.
Want to make sure that's captioning, like, closed captioning. Live captioning.
Daniel?
Yeah. And the interpreters.
Email Don about instruction. I said, I know it is.
Already put them on. I know, that's all good.
Thank you. Thank you. That's
So they insisted that.
Boy, we're sitting out in the audience, right? I think.
Good morning, everyone. We'll be starting in a few minutes. How's everyone doing this morning? Good? Welcome to spring 2025, San Diego City College. We'll be beginning in a moment. Good morning, everyone. We'll be starting in a few minutes. How's everyone doing this morning? Good. Welcome to spring 2025, San Diego City College. We'll begin in a moment. Dr. John Bathke, is he here? Dr. Bathke? Dr. John Bathke. Dr. John Bathke, is he here? Dr. Bathke? John Bathke. Is he here? Dr. Bathke? John. Bathke?
Good morning, City College. Please take your seats. We're beginning now. Good morning, City College. Please take your seats. We're beginning now. City College, please give a warm welcome to Dr. John Bathke, who will provide the land acknowledgement. City College, please give.
Yate bene, everyone. And as one of my Kumia friends would say, Hauka dias. Good morning. My name is John Bathke. I'm Assistant Professor of Native American and Indigenous Studies here at City College. Allow me to introduce myself. Yate John Bathke, Yenishe, Sendeja Kenishle, Bilagana Basha Chin, Tora Chini Dasha Che, Bilagana Dasha Nale. I'd just like to share City College's land acknowledgement statement. San Diego City College acknowledges that we gather on unceded Kumeyaay land. We value indigenous knowledge and cultural worldview. We commit to providing transformative educational experiences for all campus members and guests as we examine practices that perpetuate harm against indigenous, Black, brown, and other marginalized communities. We pledge to sustain a meaningful and respectful relationship with the Kumeyaay and other indigenous communities as we honor this beautiful land together. Thank you.
Come on, City College. We can do better than that for Dr. Bathke. Welcome to spring 2025. It has already been excited. For those of you who know our very own professional development coordinator, Marco, he's having a baby right now. Let's send some City College love to Marco and his family. And standing in for Marco will be Anna Rogers. Thank you, Anna. It's been an exciting morning as we fade out the music, as we work through captions and signers and babies and people standing in. It is already starting to be exciting. The president is doing something with all of these executive orders. We're going to update you all today how all these things will be impacting us. But as we always do, we'd like to have welcome and updates from other campus leaders, our campus leaders. It takes a village to run this campus. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce us to our Academic Senate President, Mona, who will kick us off, followed by other campus leaders. Mona? Without further ado, I'd like to introduce us to our Academic Senate President, Mona, who will kick us off, followed by...
Good morning, City College. So thanks to Ricky, I will have baby on my mind all morning. I'm a baby person, so I'm going to be imagining what that process is going to be like for him and wishing him well. So welcome back to the spring semester and Happy New Year. Happy Lunar New Year. Shinin Kwai La, Gong Hai Fa Choi, for those of you who observe. I have a confession to make. I really missed work around the end of the semester, the end of December, beginning of January. I did spend lots of precious time with my family, my little ones, my extended family. But I was trying to figure out, why am I missing work? I definitely don't miss grading. And I definitely don't miss the Senate drama. And those of you who've been around, you know. So I thought maybe I miss, or maybe I'm just exhausted, right? From serving my kids snacks nonstop for 2 weeks. But that wasn't it. So I started talking to my colleagues, collaborating, planning, really trying to figure out how we're going to deal with the current, how can I say this nicely, challenges. That wasn't it. And what I found was that students, faculty, staff, administrators, everyone I talked to at City, and all of the messaging was indicating that our college, our people are willing to stand both physically and administratively in the way of anyone, any agency threatening our learning environment or the safety of our students. And it really reminded me that this is the best college and that I am proud to work here. There is hope in working for a college like City in a district like SDCCD, a district in college that doesn't wait and see. We are not a wait and see kind of college. We are a what can we do and let's do it right now kind of college. And this is why I was excited to come back to work. This is the environment that I was ready to get my hands dirty in after a couple of weeks of relaxation. This is evident in the emergency revision of AP 3415. Some of you might have gotten an email late last night, and I'm sure you'll hear more about it today. The administrative policy that ensures that the only people who are authorized to talk to immigration authorities or ICE or anyone of that sort are the Chancellor and our General Counsel. The administrative policy that ensures that the only people who are authorized to talk to immigration authorities. And that is not talk, that is a true commitment to protect our students and employees. So I have a couple of Senate announcements related to that topic. In the fall of 2024, our very last meeting, our academic Senate voted to add a new Senate exec position. And I'm going to say the whole thing, not the acronym, because I think it's important to hear it. Our diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, and anti-racist officer. This is a historic change. It's been many years since our exec has changed significantly. It's also historic because of our climate, right? Our Senate is actively leaning into DEIA rather than cowering in fear, right? Also historic because of our climate, right? Our Senate. So there was a call out at the end of the semester, and through the call out application process, we appointed an interim DEIA officer, Ismail Carrillo, an EOPS counselor. Yes. We are so excited to have Ismail on our team. And in addition, we have a full exec team going into the spring and a full Senate. I'm going to announce the names of our Senate exec so that we all know who they are. They're also on our website. Jose Enriquez is our part-time officer. Mark Biaggi is our treasurer. Suna Fadness is our chair of chairs. Norel Martinez is our secretary. Katie Bailey is our curriculum chair. And Justin Akers Chacon is our past president. Our chair of chairs. I also want to note that, let's see, 1, 2, 3 of our officers are part-time faculty. So part-time faculty are welcome everywhere in Senate in every position at every level. And that is one of our goals, and we're going to continue working on making sure that's true in practice. And lastly, I just want to remind everyone, Senate meetings start February 10th and continue every other Monday, 2:30 to 4:30 in MS 140. Everyone is welcome. These are public meetings. And lastly, I just want to remind everyone, I hope to see many of you there because this year specifically, in this time, we need all hands on deck. We need everybody to get through the next few years. Thank you. I hope to see many of you there because this. So before I go, I want to introduce Sean Ryan, our classified Senate president. So before I go, I want to introduce Sean Ryan, our classified Senate president.
He actually is out ill today. So let's keep him in your thoughts, and we're going to get an update from Daniel, who is our SPA representative. He is out ill today. So let's keep him in your thoughts, and we're
Thank you,
gonna get an
Ricky.
update from Daniel, who is our spa representative.
Well, I had a short speech and a long speech prepared. Since Sean's not here, I'll give you the long speech. I'm sorry. I promised they were equally as boring. Hi, my name is Daniel Gonzalez. I'm the spa rep for San Diego City College. On behalf of SPA, I want to extend a warm welcome to everyone joining us for this spring convocation. It's an honor to gather as a community and reflect on the shared purpose and past that brought us here. I remember the story shared during a recent SPA town hall meeting with the city executive team. They spoke about their careers and personal struggles. Their reflections sparked a moment of self-reflection in me. I found their journeys to be profoundly beautiful and inspiring. They spoke about their careers and personal struggles. I thought deeply about my own journey. As the son of immigrants who grew up in rural California, I didn't really fully recognize the disadvantages I grew up with. Son of immigrants who grew up. My parents worked tirelessly to ensure that we were always fed and housed, despite the obstacles they faced. They instilled in us a strong work ethic and resilience. My parents worked tirelessly, values that continue to shape who I am today. Their sacrifices made it possible for me to pursue opportunities that were not available to them. I've come to realize that this story is one shared by many in our San Diego City College community. Our students, staff, and faculty carry their own histories of challenges and triumphs. These stories, marked by perseverance, strength, and hope, are the threads that connect us and make our community unique. As we reflect on the theme, what is your why? I believe it is crucial not only to look inward, but outward. By sharing our journeys and listening to each other, we foster empathy and understanding. Let us strive to create a culture of compassion and connection as we navigate our collective mission of supporting our students and one another. Thank you. Let us strive to create a culture of compassion and connection. In the words of Chicano author and educator Tomas Rivera, I recall that one time he told the people to read the poems out loud because the spoken word was the seed of love in the darkness. This reminds us of the transformative power of sharing our stories, our voices, and our humanity to create a connection and understanding. By embracing our shared human experiences, we can continue to honor the diverse voices that make San Diego City College a special place. Once again, on behalf of SPA, welcome to our spring convocation. Let's make this semester one of collaboration, inspiration, and shared success. Thank you. With everything that was going on, I thought we need to talk to each other and share our experiences because that's what makes us human. And we all have a connection, whether rich, poor, educated, not educated. We all have our stories of perseverance and struggles, and it's important for us to remember that. With that, I'd like to introduce Dalia Ramirez, the ASG president. With that, I'd like to introduce Dalia Ramirez, the ASG president.
Oh my goodness. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gnarly Dalia Ramirez. The reason why I go by Dalia is because I'm a proud daughter of an undocumented single mother. And I feel like I needed to share that with you guys because this is my last year here at City College. wow, it's the conflicting emotion of being sad, leaving my community, but I won't be leaving you guys behind. I will always come back, but I'm nervous of the new world that I will be going out to. But here we say, what is your why? And I think it's really important to tell. First of all, it's my little brother's birthday today. I'm a really family oriented person. So being here at this space and being able to share with you guys my story of when I entered here in City College, I was 17. I didn't qualify for financial aid because my mom was undocumented. And okay, I couldn't use my dad's social security because he was deported when I was 7. So it was really, I felt really alone, not supported by my government, by my community, but I found my community here at City College. What Mona said about this college being the best college, yes. As I look into new schools to see where I want to take space at, I try not to compare, but it's really hard to not compare our beautiful San Diego City College to other colleges. And I tried to find what suits me. Just how I knew on my last year during senior year, I knew City College was a place for me. I felt like I belonged here. Thank you guys. But with all that, all the challenges, all the triumphs throughout my City College journey, I'm just amazed at you guys, oh my gosh, from a student, you guys really do have a positive impact to us. We appreciate everything you guys do. I know you guys do sleepless nights. I know you guys wake up early. You guys you guys struggle like we struggle, and I know you guys understand the struggle, but we, we, we unite together and we push for that better tomorrow. So what is your why? My why is my family and you guys, my community, and just to share, cliche as it may be, just share love and peace. That's all we could do during these times. So thank you. So as we reminisce our victories that we had last year, well, for me, and take with the lessons that we learned previous our previous times, we embrace this new 2025. I know it's going to be a better one. And so if everyone could join me to please watch this short video as we see what's happening on our campus. Thank you, everyone.
Greetings and welcome back to campus for the spring term. Some very exciting news. First of all, I want to thank all of the voters for approving bond measure HH. That is $3.5 billion for the district. So we'll have a lot of building going on for the next couple of decades. Our priorities will be student housing, number one, to house 800 plus students, low-income students. 2 will be the upgrades in the Harry West Gym to include beach volleyball courts. 3 will have the Seville Theater to include an outdoor amphitheater. And number 4, rounding off our top 4 priorities, will be the renovation of the A and D building to go up another 1 or 2 levels and to house all of our student services, some of our affinity groups, including a parent resource center.
This spring break 2025, we are so excited to be able to take about 20 of our San Diego City College students on a historically Black college tour. We're going to head over to iconic places like Howard University, Morgan State, Bowie State, Virginia State. We're so excited. This is really more than a trip. For some of our students, it really is the first time they've ever been out of state. But it's an opportunity for them to see the legacies of these institutions and to arrive at institutions that affirm their identities.
We have many new and exciting things happening in the library this semester. We have a new instruction librarian, Jessica Wong. This will be Jessica's first full semester at City College Libraries. Faculty, keep an eye out for updated ways to request library services for your students.
Also, we have a new dean in ideas. Her name is Claudia. Make sure you come by and visit us, visit the team and the library.
I'm really excited to say that on March 12th of this spring, we'll be having our grand opening here, where you'll be able to enjoy an event, celebrate our colleague Elva Salinas, and be able to tour our facility as we officially open. We do want to continue to remind everybody that our Professional Learning Council has a work group that works on receiving professional learning funding requests, and that's for faculty, classified, supervisors, and including managers.
Education in general, we have a lot of people who come for a number of different reasons. Usually the biggest reason, unfortunately, is how can they get paid more money? A few students are there getting an education because they're actually interested in building their knowledge. But what we hope to do at the conference is to really bridge the gap between education and making the world a better place. So at the Social Justice Conference this year, we're going to have speakers who are coming in, and they're going to be making that connection of how your education can directly impact the world that you're a part of.
We are ramping up for a busy spring and outreach. This is going to be our peak period in which we're supporting our high schools and community partners. At our feeder schools and our charter schools, we're going to be busy helping our students apply for CCAP, as well as the City College application and Promise application. In addition, we are going to be ramping up our efforts to support our financial aid completion and DREAM Act application completion as well. We know that this is critical in supporting the student-centered funding formula here at City College, and we're going to be doing our part to really support our students and the community.
We're excited to start the year with the creation of support services for our academic career and pathways. As I mentioned to you last semester, our academic career pathways, aka ACPs, are live on CCC Apply. Let me remind you of the ACPs. ACP number 1 is Find My Path for our undecided students. Number 2 is going to be Arts, Media, Performing, and Design. 3, Business, Info, Tech, and Trades. 4 is Health. 5, Math, Sciences, Engineering, and Environment. And the 6th and last one is going to be SLICE, which stands for Social and Behavioral Sciences, Language, Identity, Culture, and Education.
In collaboration with Guided Pathways and the Enrollment Management Committee, we've been working on a series of workshops where we engage with program leads to build multi-year schedules that are predictable for students so they can maximize the number of classes they take and ensure that they sequence their classes in the correct order to allow them to complete as efficiently as possible.
It's been really great. We've worked with 5 programs so far. We go through a series of collaborative workshops with program leads to get their insights and take a look at data. So let us know if you're interested in participating. We need some more participants for this summer, and we think it's a really great process.
We hope to have a lending hand with our faculty to see how we can ensure student success. And not only that, listen to our students as to what is their needs and wants and how can we accomplish that. And also have a little fun as college students.
I'm super excited to share with you that the scholarship season is now open here at San Diego City College. And it opened December 1st and closes February 24th. So please share this wonderful opportunity with all your students so they can meet their educational goals.
Pencil in the date for the 21st Annual Student Project and Research Symposium in conjunction with our 11th Annual Community Open House. Thursday, April 17th, right here in AHBT Quad. Bring your classes. It's a really fun day. Encourage your students to apply and participate. There's prizes and awards. Consider offering extra credit to any of your students who might attend, and we'll see you there.
Hi, City College community. I am Vilma Calvario Tlahuantapa, the director of the World Cultures Program. This program is a cornerstone of our college's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. It celebrates human and cultural diversity and understanding through various events and activities that fosters engagement by building connections with our on and off campus communities worldwide. The Spring 2025 World Cultures Event Series will feature an exciting lineup. For dates and times, check out our website calendar and follow us on Instagram for updates. The Spring 2025 World Cultures Event Series will feature an exciting lineup. For dates and times, check out our website calendar and follow us on Instagram.
All right, everybody. Looks like we're in for an exciting spring semester. My name's Anna Rogers. I'm standing in, as you know, for Marco Anzuris. And so at this point, it's my pleasure to introduce our four guests for this morning's town hall. If we could have our president, Ricky Shabazz. Give him a round of applause. Our Vice President of Student Services, Marciano Perez.
Come on down. You're the first contestant.
Our Vice President of Instruction, Matilda Chavez. Tilly.
Come on down. First contestant.
And our Vice President of Administrative Services, John Parker. So to introduce you to the Town Hall Forum this morning, we're going to begin with a few brief updates from our executive team. But the format for the Town Hall is after our updates, we will go through a few of the questions that were solicited from all of you via email by Marco Anzures. So we have some pre-planned questions that we will float to our executive team. You are also invited to submit questions. We have forms out in the lobby. So if they're out on the table on this side. If you'd like to write down your questions, you can do that. We'll have a microphone here. If you would like to come up as we're fielding the questions, we'll start with our pre-planned questions and then we'll move to impromptu questions from the audience about midway through the conversation. We'll start with our pre-planned questions. I'm sorry. The executive team wants to have an authentic dialogue with the campus community, and they're inviting you to ask questions on any topic that you would like them to address. And if we are not able to address your question during the town hall, if you will leave us the card with your name and your contact information on it, I'm sorry, they're not cards, they're sheets of paper, then your question will be responded to by other modes of communication, email. And at this point, please give us your updates.
Yeah, let's give it up for Anna Rogers, who's standing in for Marco. Let's give it up for Marco, who has a baby on the way. Before I get into my updates, I was looking at the communication on the YouTube, and there was absolutely some City College love being shown for our adjuncts. Let's give it up for our adjuncts and our classified professionals and all the folks who are on the front lines, supervisors. I see many of our deans. This is absolutely a San Diego City College family. And speaking of family, also behind the scenes, we have the folks who are up in the booth, Mike, and we have a new Nance up there as well. Behind the scenes, even though Sean is ill, Eric jumped right in there. Don Long got a text this morning saying one of our signers was not going to be here. It's one of those days, folks, as we know that is indicative of just as educators, as people who work to educate the next generation, that we just have to remain extremely, extremely, extremely flexible, because nothing this morning has gone as planned. But as they say in show business, the show must go on. And so let's get into it, Caesar. And speaking of the show going on, Caesar texted me late last night and asked that I have a picture working out. It's like, when do I have time to work out, Caesar? What are you talking about? And what he was really trying to do, and I've been open about my health concern. I do have a major health concern going on with my left eye, and I've stumped about 6 specialists because I can see very close, but there's about 2,000 people in the audience and everybody's been cloned today, which is a fancy way to say that my vision is blurred further away. And so I have a number of appointments. What essentially has happened is that the muscle that allows my left and right eye to be even, or at least see even, the left eye muscle that goes vertical has given out. And so the doctors they've never seen that. Typically the horizontal muscle goes, but not the one that goes vertical. And so bear with me if I'm walking on campus and I don't say hi to you, it's probably because I literally don't see you and I'm trying to not fall down on my face. Let's go to the next one. We're still working on goals, and one of the things I promised the vice presidents, and I'm going to publicly promise you all, is that given what's going on in the world, given the budget matter I'm going to talk about a little later, I've promised the vice presidents, and somebody needs to write this down and tape it. No new projects are going to come from me. Now, we have some projects that we haven't started that still need to get done. But we're in this period where we're having conversations about the difference between quality and quantity. We have an amazing opportunity, given the number of people we've hired, given the enrollment data that we're going to share later, to really focus on the quality of services and ensuring that you belong here, that we are a caring campus, because people are having babies, people are really challenged with mental health matters. And so we want to be there for all of you as we improve the student journey. We have an amazing student body president. I am so happy for her. If you all could have seen her on Monday talking to our elected officials, advocating for additional funding for our campus, Dahlia, you are doing an amazing job. Shout out to you. We look forward to seeing where you're going to transfer next year. We continue to be committed to enrollment management. And enrollment management doesn't necessarily mean growing. Sometimes it means retaining the students so that there are other Dahlias that are transferring to four-year colleges and supporting the students who are here already. And then lastly, effective enrollment management. And I'm going to get into that in some slides later. So let's go ahead, Caesar, to the next slide. And you're going to hear a lot of this from all of the vice presidents. And so some good news. Good news is good news. We're 97% of our target. We got to clap for that, y'all. That's good news. Last year, around the same time, we're about 91%. Shout out to all the chairs, the faculty, the deans, the folks in admission and records, financial aid. Shout out to the campus. It takes the entire campus to hit our targets, and we are 97%, which is much better than 91.4%. But what's even more impressive is our productivity, which I have never in my nearly 9 years seen us at the 14 other than summer or intercession. So these are great numbers. Now, I'm cautiously optimistic. Anybody know why I'm cautiously optimistic? The darn bots. And so our district is working tirelessly to get the fake students. These folks have far more time on their hands than we do, and they're getting more and more sophisticated. But look, I'm rolling with the 97% until they prove otherwise. Head count continues to be going up. Shout out to Clarissa and the outreach team. They continue, Genevieve. They continue to do an amazing job. All the student workers in the Welcome Center, the folks working in the Promise bundles. That's why I feel confident to say no new projects. The projects that we have implemented are working, folks. And so we'll continue to, roll them until the wheels fall off. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, Caesar. Budget. You saw my budget update. You saw the chancellor's budget update. The chancellor's going to be joining us later also for town hall. He'll look for your questions. A promising budget, preliminary budget from the governor. Now, we've got a long way to go with the May revise and the June actual budget signing. But this budget is absolutely better than last year's budget. But there's some points that I want to clarify, is that we are advocating to increase the 0.05% enrollment growth, right? So as Tilly gets into her slides, and you may have heard we were trying to grow 4%. Well, we can no longer grow 4% because the state's not compensating for that, right? And so we have to pivot, as we always do in California, to address that piece of it. We're also advocating at the state level, and this is what Dahlia was doing with several other students in Sedica, because yes, we're happy about the proposed 2.43% COLA, but it doesn't apply to all of our programs. And so a number of our faculty, a number of our classified professionals and managers are paid via what we call C, but for sake of conversation, triple SP, equity, and basic skills. And so that is not included in the 2.43% COLA. And so we're advocating for that right now. And we're cautiously optimistic because most of the gains in the revenues for the state came from the stock market, which is not sustainable over a long period of time. And so the Legislative Analyst Office is predicting that in 26, 27, we could either see some form of a recession or a retraction in the revenue. And so we have to plan accordingly, because last year we ended the year, and John Parker would want me to give the actual number. He said, I'm rounding too high. But last year we ended the year with a budget deficit about $2.7 million. So we've got to tighten up our belts and be more strategic about how we spend the resources that we actually have. Let's go ahead to the next slide, Caesar. You heard Mona reference AP 3415. And again, I echo her sentiments that I am so proud to work in a district. Our chancellor stood up in a meeting in Sacramento with all 116 community colleges and gave a speech about our commitment to social justice, equity, and inclusion. That makes me proud to work in a district that is not going to pivot or change our terms or align with the rhetoric that is out there. We serve 100% of the students who walk through the doors, folks, and we're not going to change the way that we do that. And I want to be honest that there is much confusion, and I believe that that is what the folks who are causing the confusion desire to do. And so please do me a favor and be careful what you consume on social media, because by the time you get all, riled up, we might be in courts fighting this stuff. Right. And so how many of you all received the communication that the president's executive order was going to stop all the federal grants and the sky was going to fall? Right. We might be in courts fighting. You notice I didn't send anything out about that, because I knew it was going to wind up in courts and they were going to put a stay on that. And then before the end of the day, we got another communication that says, oh, we were just playing. Right. And so this is indicative of what's going to happen over the next 4 years. And it's any government professors in the audience, any professors who teach political science or government, this is where we're going to have to brush up on our understanding of how the three branches of government work, right? Because the president really, other than his rhetoric, can only do so much unless Congress and the Supreme Court backs what he is trying to do. And I'm not anti-government, I'm not anti-Trump, I'm pro supporting 100% of the students who walk through our doors. And so we'll continue to say, be careful about where you're consuming the information and how lively you get when you hear it, because behind the scenes, I assure you that your leadership is working to block all of this nonsense so that we can continue to serve the students that we serve. Let's go to the next slide. We continue to hire. We had a wonderful reception for our new Dean of Ideas, Claudia. Claudia, are you in? There you are right there. Welcome, Claudia. Joining Claudia are two new librarians. You already met Marley, but Jessica is joining us as our new librarian as well. We have two new librarians. There's my librarians right there. I see you all. And for those of you who didn't know, as the president, I'm actually starting to get a division like the vice presidents. I have the Dean of Ideas and the related areas, library, professional development, and other things that report directly to the president. That was Marciano and Tilly's idea. We also have Susan Murray and her team, Institutional Effectiveness, reports to the president, as well as Aaron Flanagan and the foundation. And so just wanted to make sure that you all were aware that there are units that report directly to the president. And so without further ado, next up is Marciano to provide some updates. So just wanted to
Well, good morning, everyone. Marciano Perez, Vice President of Student Services. And I turned to John earlier when we were sitting out there and I said, this is the most nervous I've been at any convocation. I don't know what it was. And then I just looked at it and I realized it's because my daughter's sitting out in the audience today. She works out, she's working here on campus now. And so having her judge me from a distance when I can see her is what's making me real nervous. So, but I still love
Hold
baby
on.
girl.
We got to have her stand up. So this.
Well, I was thinking about what we were going to talk about today, and I've gone back and forth, and I met with student affairs yesterday because they had a retreat, and was really thinking about what message I wanted to kind of talk about today. And I think, Caesar, if you can go to the next slide, please. I think you're going to hear a lot of the same things being repeated, which is for us that our mission and our values have not changed. I got a lot of questions from folks over the new year asking me about, are we ready? Are we scared? What are we going to do? There was a lot of fear I heard in emails and texts and conversations that I was having with folks. But I kept coming back to the idea that the work that we do in student services is the work that we do. It does not change based on who's sitting in an office over in Washington, D.C. That we are still committed to doing our students. So I wanted to bring that back to our student services team and reminding folks about what is our mission. Our mission in student services is to welcome and inspire every student to identify and pursue their community, personal, educational, and professional goals. And we prioritize accessibility, equity, and social justice through student-centered support services and educational opportunities for global learning. So that was all a fancy way of saying what Ricky just said, is that we support every student that walks through these doors, regardless of where they come from. We also talked about our values. And so what are we committed to? What is it that we stand for? And we have said that we are a college, we're a multicultural institution that's committed to providing open access to all who can benefit from instruction and to meeting the diverse and ever-changing educational, cultural, and economic needs of an urban core and surrounding communities of San Diego. And we're committed to social justice. And so all of that to say is that we know who we are. Our students know who we are. And Dahlia came and shared with you a little bit of her story, but we've got lots and lots of students that have stories just like hers. We have lots of students that are showing up on our doorsteps every single day who are just looking for a chance to start fresh, to get a start and a jump start onto whatever the next chapter in their life is going to be. And so our values are to support them as they do that. Next slide. I was asked to kind of talk a little bit about, as we think about what we're going to do in this spring, I wanted to at least recognize some of the great work that we've done in the fall. And there are, I'm going to apologize up front because we get into this, lots of folks gave me things and I wasn't able to put everything on these slides. So just know that for every one of these, there's another 2 or 3 that are not on slides. But I really wanted to highlight because one of the things that we've talked today is about, supporting our undocumented students. And I want to acknowledge the work that Magali and her team have done in the Undocumented Resource Center.
Hold on. Is the Undocumented Center institutionalized?
It is absolutely institutionalized. It is not going anywhere. So these are just some highlights that Magali had shared. And I think she sent this out to the campus. I'm not going to read it to you, but other than to say that if you look at the number of students that are coming into that center every single day, who are asking for support, who are asking for resources, who are meeting with folks that Magali and her team are bringing in to support our students, that work is absolutely invaluable. And she cannot do that work alone. She's also, I think it's important to note that that she is not the only person on our campus that is working on this. And so it's important to know that she's one person. She's working with a team of folks. And so I ask you all to give her a little grace as well, because there's going to be lots of things that she, like all of us, just don't know. As Ricky mentioned, things are changing every single day. She's getting as many emails as I'm getting about, hey, this is happening. This is coming down. What are you all going to do about it? And we just need time to kind of pause look at whatever it is and then make a decision about how we're going to move forward. And as Ricky said, some of those things are going to be challenged in courts. And so we're not going to do anything. And then some things we are going to have to pivot, but we're going to do that in a strategic way. Our team had been working with a coach, an executive coach, and one of the things that he had been trying to drill into us is this idea of slowing down to speed up. And so one of the things that I'm encouraging folks to do is exactly that, is that as these things are coming down, to just take a pause, slow down. Let's analyze what it is that we're being asked to do, and then we'll figure out a way of how we're going to move forward, keeping in mind that we're going to continue to serve our students the best way that we can. Next slide. Another big highlight for us is, it was very clear that we have a lot of students who are in need. And so students whose basic needs were at the forefront of the things that were keeping them from succeeding in school. So I want to acknowledge Nydia and all of her team and our Welcome City team led by Mike Evans, who have been really working hard over the last couple of years now to really provide basic needs services for all of our students. And not just our students, but knowing, if you all may not be aware, we have a large number of faculty and professional, classified professional staff who also go into our basic needs center. And they bring students over every day before classes to make sure that their students are fed, so that way they can be successful in class. So it's important to note that if you look at the statistics, that Nydia and her team are really taking care of a lot of students every single day in that center. And they can't do that alone. And so she's constantly out there working with community organizations, taking in donations for clothing, working with outside organizations to get other food sources for our students, working with our urban farm to try and figure out ways to get some of the things that are going in the farm into our basic needs center. And so there are lots of exciting things that are happening, and those things will continue. Next slide. So one of the other things that she's done, we get a lot of questions about what other kinds of, other than food and clothing, what other kinds of services do we provide? Just knowing that she is able to provide things like gift cards to students through her basic needs grants that she has, parking or gas cards, things like that. So those are all there. Next slide. Although we've transitioned some areas to Ricky, I did want to highlight that our Yosue STEM group, so is Lawson and the Yosue STEM group here, I believe, maybe. But I just want to acknowledge all the great work that they've been doing. We've got about another 2 years left on our grant, a year and a half left on our grant. And so these are some of the exciting events that are coming up in spring for the Yosue STEM group. So I wanted to acknowledge them and all the hard work that they've done. We had in December, we met with our external evaluator to look at where we were with the grant. And I was happy because our external evaluator really spoke volumes about the work that Claudia at the time has been doing with leading the grant, and the work that we've been doing, given how late in the game we got into it. But we're really excited about where we are and where we've been. So next slide. I guess I'm wrapping up because I only just got 2 more things to talk about. Is one, we've got a lot of things that are going to be happening in this spring. So we've got Black History Month is kicking off in a couple days here. So there's a QR code there. We'll be sent Deanna Shelton, who is chair of our Ideas Committee, and Adan, who is our Dean of Student Affairs. We'll be sending out communication about our Black History Month calendar. There's a QR code so you can see all of the programs and events that are happening on campus. That includes a Black employee mixer. We've got a networking event that's happening. We've got an event for lots of events for students that are being put on and sponsored by Emoja, their Black Film Festival. And so please look out for those and support our students who are putting on these programs. And also, one of the exciting parts of spring is always our end of year and graduation. I know we're in January, we're already talking about May, but we've got graduation that our students are already asking lots of questions about. And so I just wanted to make sure that we are clear about our commencement date. It is May 22nd. And I had a lot of questions of folks that were sending me emails saying, like, I think the date is wrong because that's the week before finals. And I want you to reassure you that that is not the wrong date. We have as you all know, we have a partnership with Balboa Park to be able to house our graduation there. And unfortunately, the date that would have normally been our graduation date was not available. And so we are a week earlier than we normally would be. And so that is why, and our academic calendar shifted, as you all know. And so that's why for this year only, we are kind of on an off schedule, but we will be back on schedule. We now have a 5-year lease agreement with Balboa Park. So they have our dates for the next 5 years. So everything will fall back into alignment for that. But there's also a calendar of events for all of our end of year events. And so we ask that you all pay attention to those and again, support our students as they prepare for whatever's going to be next in their transition. And then my last slide is really are also new hires. So if any of the new hires are here, when I call your name, if you can just go ahead and stand up. But first, let me acknowledge that Dr. Bernice Lorenzo is our new Dean of Student Development and Matriculation. So she's in the back there. As many of you know, Dr. Lorenzo has been acting in this role for a while, but she's not new to this position because she was in the role for a while, went back to being in counseling and missed it so much that she decided to come back and help us out again. So we're excited that she has stepped up.
Hold on. I always have to say, because I don't know how many people know, the people who know, Bernice, I saw you in the back. Can you stand up also? And Dahlia, I don't know if you know, but Bernice also was a student body president at San Diego City College when she was a student here.
We also want to acknowledge that we've got Eddie Franco, who is our new Latinx Student Success Coordinator. We've got Joshua Lindo, who is our new ANAPI Student Success Coordinator. Eddie Franco. So Joshua's sitting there. Perfect. We've got Sari Ben Morales Rivera, who is our acting outreach coordinator. So she's on loan from Miramar. And then we've got Itza Boy, who is now officially the student affairs admin for in the Office of Student Affairs. She's been on loan for about 2.5 years, so she's finally in the permanent role. Again, thank you all. I know that was a lot of updates, but I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page. So thank you all for allowing me to do that. She's been on loan for 2.5 years, so she's finally in the permanent role.
Happy New Year. For those of you that I haven't seen and still can't see you anyways with the light, but that's okay. Happy New Year and welcome. I'm Tilly Chavez, Vice President of Instruction. I'm happy to be here, and along with the same theme, I was thinking, I didn't put my vision up today, but I think we all know we share the same vision of making sure we have that perfect student-centered schedule and keep our students coming back. But I just want to say that as far as from instructional services, I think the best thing to say is that we're going to keep our classrooms open, right? We're going to keep our doors open for our students that need us. If they need to come to a place to find refuge with us, we're here. I'd like to see how many of you are serving in the classroom this coming semester. How many hands? Okay, does that include part-time faculty, ILTs, IAs? Keep those hands up, keep those hands up. How many of you here in this room have helped students to get into the classroom? I should see every hand raised right now. Every single one of you are participating in every one of these students' journey. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I just wanted to start off with that, sorry. Next slide. I just went off on a tangent, but they're used to this, so that's okay. I wanted to come back and just talk a little bit about enrollment. I know Ricky hit quite a bit, but today's enrollment is at 98%, Ricky, not 97. 98% today. So thank goodness, yes. I just wanted to have to make sure I'd added that one. And I think at this point, I also wanted to acknowledge that I did have a guest. She had to get up and go back to a conference that I pulled her away from, but I guess, Ricky, you were over at the, let's see, yes, the Strong Workforce one over in Coronado, but, and Andy, if you can help me, or Genevieve, and let Katie Sundara know that she's my mentee for ACA. She was here yesterday, and she started off over here. I told her, you can't leave without coming to Convocation, at least for a little bit. Show off a little bit for her. Oh, she's streaming, so she's gonna, thank you, Katie. So I just wanted a quick shout out. We were talking a little bit about enrollment. Ricky already talked about the 0.05% that we get funded. And, you know, last year we did such a great job. We ended up, I don't really even remember how much it was, but especially in CCAP, all of you did a fantastic job. We went over and we had more FTES than we could be funded. But since then, we are working really hard to get that all funded now. But so we're working so hard, get that 4% up, keep moving us, but it's hard to keep growing and then we don't get the money. So we made a decision that instead of going for 4% this next year, 25, 26, we're going to aim for 2%. So don't be so sad, because we're going to hit those targets, right? We're going to be sitting here saying it's 100% we hit our target, which only helps us for the following years after that to get hopefully more funds, right? Our president's going to go out and advocate for us on that one. See? So we're going to be going up by only 2%. That translates to a couple of different things, but we're going to work on those. We're going to try to get our highest summer and fall enrollment that we've ever had. Because I like the way Ricky had said it, and I don't know if he said it today or just the other day with me, and said, let's hit hard summer and fall, then we can catch our breath in spring, right? Intercession is always one that we do well on, so we can just really work hard on that. But our big commitment as a district, as a campus, and thank you, shout out to Genevieve Esguerra, she's out there somewhere. Thank you, Genevieve, is CCAP. CCAP has grown, I don't even know the percentage since I've arrived here 6 years ago, but we made the commitment to next year, we're going to hit 450 FTES. And for those of you that love the numbers, that translates to 30 FTEF. So that's what we're guaranteeing to our CCAP, and that's what we're going to be looking to grow. Included in some, well, not included in that one, but also in addition to that is our summer academies that we're working on, building our dual and concurrent enrollment for those high school kids that have nothing else going on in the summer. We're going to capture them here. So hopefully it'll be a pilot this summer, and the rest of the time you're all going to start looking at how can we build on that for the years to come. Next slide. Kids that have nothing else going on. Ricky already said he stole my slides. I shouldn't have turned him in so early, but we are all enrollment management, right? And we truly are. This is such a complex process. It is not, hey, go get a couple students here, a couple students there. I just have to tell you, I started looking around this campus. It was, by the way, I mentioned already, I've been here for 6 years. I didn't know I was going to make it 6 months, to be honest with you. I came out from out of state and I just felt like a fish out of water. But with your help, I think this is where we've come to. And I'm looking at enrollment management, and I really did take it on when I first came here as if it was just myself in the corner. And that's why I thought I wasn't going to make it very long. But I look around this room and every one of you has helped into enrollment management and still continue to do so. We start off to look at student journey. It used to be an enrollment management committee and it turned into student journey, and it's all focused with students, and students are on there. We work on different aspects of that. We have guided pathways as part of our partners in there. And Dr. Carrillo is here. Where'd she go? Helping us out with, you already mentioned earlier in the video, right? And we're talking about our guided pathways and moving into the program mapper to help us off with our ACPs. And so that is all pieces of where we're going. And this whole group is working together. And I think we were kind of like in our own little corners, working here, doing the same thing. We got together and it's really a fun family. I love to take a look at how we all work together. And then we start to look at within those groups, everybody is part of the SEM, which is the strategic enrollment project that we did, management that we went through the state. Well, all of you are part of that. We just had to send a few people to go work on it. And on that project, you heard about Sean and Bradford also working through guided pathways. They're trying to sequence our programs so that students can come to us and say, so if I take this program, I can actually finish by this time. Not only can I finish, but we can also offer the courses for them because we know how frustrating that can be. So it's a big effort on how we're all getting there together. The next SEM project that we're looking to do, so get ready, is to now put in for another one, apply to do the annualized scheduling. So start thinking about if you want to serve on that one. And then through all this too, we sent a group through the EMA, the Enrollment Management Academy. UCSD offered Academy this summer. Deans, faculty, staff were participating and learned all kinds of fantastic skills, which we are now utilizing to move forward. And that's how we're getting to 98% or 100% next year. So next slide, please. So when you start to look at all these things that make up enrollment management, we started just playing with the little word cloud. These are the kind of things that came to mind, you know, different things that you look at: empowering, proactive, student-centered schedule, changing culture, any of those types of things you can look at. I just kind of had to put them all together. And the reason I started thinking about this is we went up on the SEM project to San Jose 2 weeks ago, and we were given an assignment. They had a piece of a puzzle, and we each had to write down, how do you fit in this piece of puzzle? In the puzzle, how does your piece fit into that whole puzzle? Because enrollment management really is a puzzle, if you think about it. So looking at this word cloud, I started thinking, and I shared with the group. Next slide, please. And what I came up with for myself is yes. How do we get to yes? So whatever the question might be, can we do blah, 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 blah? Yes. How do we get to yes together? And I hope that I've asked that all of us on the exec team try to follow this process to say, yes. How do we get to yes? Now, we can't just say go to yes. We have to have a solution. We have to have a process to get there. So how can I help you and how can you help me to get to yes? So anyways, I just wanted to bring that forward, and I thought that would be something that we look for this year. And again, I'm just really proud of this college, how you work together. I'm just watching so many people putting things together, and all for one cause, our students. And it's really, I have to tell you, I've worked in many places and I've not seen that before. So city is a special place. Next one, thank you. So I have a couple of new hires too. And if I need to see you all, I can't find you. So we have a new hire. Sheila Davis is our special projects manager. Where's Sheila? Okay, there she is, Sheila. And so she's in our BICET school. Sheila came from student services. Now she's in instruction. Don't go back. You can't go back. She's overseeing our apprenticeship program. This is so important because I'm so excited to see us grow in apprenticeship. So Ricky, you are going to see those brochures. There's videos. She's got a lot of things already happening. So I know you're excited about that. We had the opportunity to hire our very first professor for our information networking technology.
Cybersecurity.
And Shams, are you out here? Shams here? Stand up. She's in the back. Okay. We have Shams Al-Ajari. Shams comes to us. Come on. I can't see Shams back there. All the way in the back. There we go.
Yeah, they don't realize how bright these lights are.
No, I know. It's like you can't see anything. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say we now have a female faculty in cyber.
They don't realize how bright these lights are.
We also have two instructional assistants. They make up one position, so they're half-time positions. But we have Isabella Borges. I don't know if Isabella's here, for graphic design, and Lucia Davia. Both of them are, yeah, so they're both for graphic design. And then I didn't, do we have anything? No, okay. And then we also hired in our math, science, and it's not engineering anymore, nursing. Boy, my head went a different place there. We have hired our astronomy and physics faculty. Now, I just got to tell you, before I call this person out, it just seems so unique to me that there is like a Lopez family that's good in instruction. So we have Mike Lopez. Where you at, Mike? There we are. Stand up, Mike. He's right over here. So his dean is Letty Lopez.
So for the record, we have to say no relation, right?
They're no relation. Not your cousins either. So thank you and welcome everyone. Those are the new hires for our instruction.
So for the record, we have to say no relation, right?
No relation.
Good morning, everyone. I am the caboose for the panel here today, John Parker, Vice President of Administrative Services. Next slide, please. Similar to Marciano, this is probably, I think, the most nervous I have been too for this convocation because we received $3.5 billion.
The district.
We being the district, obviously, $3.5 billion. That's a lot of money. I feel like the uncle in the family who just like hit the lotto, and I'm getting email, texts, calls, running into people downtown. Hey, we heard you just got $3.5 million. Yes, we did as a district. It has to be split up. So if you haven't heard, we have actually issued $850 million in bonds. Those have been cut, and I believe we have received the money in the treasurer's office coffers, and that's for the district. That's just phase one, $850 million, which is a lot of money. And I just want to continue the common theme here that everything we do is student-centric and mission-driven. It's easy to get lost in the numbers, especially for me, but I want to make sure that everything that we do, every dollar we spend is student-centered, mission-driven. So with the $3.5 billion over the next couple of decades or so, that money will go into renovating classrooms, building classrooms, child education centers, student housing, technology, upgrades. We have a lot of work to do. And some of our facilities are a lot older. This is one of them, which will receive one of the enhancements, as you did see in the video. And some of you may recall when I came in 2020, we had retained architectural services to help with the facilities strategic plan. So they did what's called a facility use assessment, and they also conduct workshops, surveys, and work. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Surveys, and from those workshops and surveys and focus groups, our stakeholders, including our students and our employees, identified 3 priorities to go into our facilities plan, our strategic plan, and eventually into our bond. One being to enhance the student experience and student success. The second is to increase safety and security on the campus, understandable. And the third is to connect more with our community as a college, as a community college. Those are the 3 top priorities. And of that, we were able to identify our 3 top projects based on this same group, R&T, and then SGPA, the work groups and surveys. And now this isn't us. This is, and some of you may have received the surveys. Actually, everyone should have received the surveys. But the top 3 priorities for our bond are affordable student housing. Number 1, this is low income housing for our students. We'll have about 800 plus beds or so. This facility is state of the art, high tech. We have a virtual reality walkthrough of it. It will include study spaces, rec areas, a parent support center, food services, to name a few. And actually, I think we have, did we nix the patio? No, there's going to be a rooftop, but it's going to be for events. It's not accessible to students. So this is part of connecting with the community as well. Our beloved Seville Theater will receive an upgrade. High tech, yes, absolutely. Cutting edge, state of the art for events, performances, performing arts, technology upgrades, and the schematic designs that we received. It's not going to look quite like this on the screen, but it's going to be pretty high tech. It's very impressive to include an outdoor amphitheater. The conceptual design was to have a glass curtain wall in the front so that you could see inside, and to just open it up into our community. And that's what our students and stakeholders were saying. We want to connect more to the community. And this is a beacon for our community, as will student housing, and as is exercise science, to include upgrades to improve the air quality, to add HVAC and asbestos removal, because that is also a beacon of our community in terms of renting it out. Next slide, please. Capital project request form. How many of us can use a new space or classroom or building. More than that, because I'm receiving emails pretty much on a daily basis. There is a process for this. We had about 40 projects that were identified initially, and we had to cull it down to 10 for our bond. And in phase one, it's our top 3. We can include additional projects that were not in the initial facilities master plan or in the bond. Things have changed since 2020. Our needs are different, our students are different environment. Of course, we have to consider. However, there is a process. We have to ensure that all of the projects in phase one have been completed. That's number one. Number two is this form needs to be submitted to me. It's not a unilateral decision. I do not get to decide what's a go and what's a no-go. It goes to me first, then the facilities planning committee, then to exec, then to college council, and to the district. So this form, you will have to answer a lot of questions in this form of how it pertains to student success, how it aligns with the mission and vision of the college. Does it include additional funding sources? Is it in the education, not education program, what is it? Program review, sorry. Is it in program review? So a lot of thought will have to go into this. This form will be available on our website with a new Q&A, if we can go to the next slide, because I'm receiving a lot of questions, understandably. There's a lot of money, there's a lot of things going on in our environment right now. So I have a Q&A which will be uploaded soon, and after today, we'll have this form that will be uploaded as well. Effective budget management training. Please visit our website budget planning page, which outlines on our monthly training. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I conducted a training for creative financing and to pretty much explain all of the funds outside of GFR and GFU to include grants, foundation, co-curricular, lotto, and a few others, fundraising. We have to be pretty creative going into this environment now that COVID funds will be going away this year. If there are any questions, please send me an email or our business services team. First of all, I want to encourage you to visit our website first, because right now we're in the middle of budget season, and we'll start having our budget hearings, and I believe the next month or so through our resource allocation committee. Next slide. Right now we're in the Speaking of stewards of our budget, any idea what percentage of our budget is dedicated to salaries of our operating budget? A number? I heard 80, 90. You're getting up there. For our campus, it's approximately 96% of our budget is dedicated to salaries and benefits. So we don't have a lot of leverage for discretionary funds. I put Nance guide, pardon me? Yeah, we can't make it rain anymore. Gone are the days of HERF and going are the days of COVID funds. Nance guidelines I put up here, I received a report last week and I was blown away that we have Nances on this list that have been employed for 10 plus years, 8, 9, 5 years or so. I just really want to reinforce what a Nance is. Essentially, it's part-time. It's an acronym for non-academic, non-classified employee. It's part-time. And they are short-term hourly employees. And these are the types of Nances that we have: substitutes, short-term, student workers, and professional experts who may work on finite projects outside of the skills and knowledge of an existing position. So we do have various reports which we review.
So you mean if I've been here for 8 years as a Nance, that doesn't fit short-term?
That is not short-term, sir. No, and we have 10 plus. Ed code is if a Nance exceeds a certain amount of days and or hours, we must offer them a contract. They must become an employee, and that is not in the budget. So that's going to increase that 96% of our salaries and benefits, which is not in our budget. Next slide, please. New hires. We have one new hire or promotion. Sal Guzman, who has been promoted to accounting specialist. Are you here, Sal? Sal's not here.
He's watching online.
Say again?
He's watching online.
He's watching online. Good. Oh, he's probably working. I see him pointing to Sal. Sal, you got to stand up. There we go. Way in the back. Sorry, I can't see you.
That is the darkest part of the stage.
That
where
is
the light
right
is.
in the back.
I see his silhouette.
I see a
Hey,
silhouette.
Sal.
Yeah. And Sal's pretty tall, so that looks like Sal. So welcome, Sal. That is it for Administrative Services Update. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. We appreciate all of the updates. You've also preemptively answered some questions, but so I'd like to move us forward to the town hall portion of our session today. I'm going to remind everybody that we're going to work with a few pre-submitted questions. These came from you as you responded to the emailed form. We also have in the lobby sheets where you can write down your questions. And we'll have a point in the discussion where you'll be able to pose your questions. We have a microphone over here. So I invite you, if you would like to, write your questions down. You don't need to, you can actually come to the microphone. But we'll begin with just a few questions in advance that have been presented to us. Even though we have, and thank you very much, you have responded to many of the themes that arose in the questions that were submitted. We want to make sure that we acknowledge the concerns of the constituent groups. Many questions emerged around the current state of the nation and the impacts that will have on us here at City College. So I'd like to give all of you an opportunity at this point to add anything that you would like to add to the thoughts you've already expressed about how your vision for our college may have changed or evolved with everything that is happening in our country, and what can we all do collectively to keep our students safe and hopeful.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask my colleagues in the interest of time, because the Chancellor is here and we'll start promptly at 10:45, that we try to be concise and not all answer the question if we need to. That way we can get to as many questions as possible. This is real, and I want to choose my words wisely because some of us have lived through this a number of times. And what I mean by live through this, we are working, I don't want to say behind the scenes, but because some of you all are not in the meetings that I'm in, or that the Chancellor's in, or that the vice presidents are in, sometimes if you don't see or hear the meetings, you think something's not happening. The Chancellor, I believe, is going to announce, and I requested alongside of the presidents, that our Vice Chancellor of Educational Services, who meets regularly, and Lillian, who meets regularly with the coordinators of our undocumented resource centers, start meeting weekly, because there's so much misinformation out there that we want to try to get ahead of the very legitimate concerns that people have. But as you heard Marciano reference, this is changing minute by minute. Like, I'm almost hesitant to even look at my emails because I'm getting so many things, much of which is speculation, some of which is not, some of which is we're going to do this, and then an hour later we can't do that. And so what I can speak on behalf of the entire team is that we are committed to serving 100% of the students who walk through those doors. And I want to add something that I was thinking, and please forgive me for not adding this, but it is absolutely embedded in that, and that is also the employees, right? Because we have colleagues who are DACA recipients, we have colleagues who are mixed status. So know when we say students, we absolutely mean the person sitting to the left or to the right of you, or who's watching online, that commitment extends to the people who also sacrifice their time and their families to support the students who we serve here at San Diego City College. to the right of you or who's watching online.
Thank you
that
very
commitment
much.
is being
I'm going to move us down a little bit. Another thing that emerged is connected with the district's commitments to sustainability. So how are we addressing sustainability and focusing on jobs in a greener future? I'm going to move us down a little bit. Another
John
thing that
Parker.
emerged is connected with the district's
Sustainability and jobs. My job is to ensure that I provide the funding and resources in every department, every classroom, student services. So in terms of ensuring sustainability, we're going to keep doing what we've been doing up until this point. Now, and I want to clarify, is the sustainability is that a green question as well in terms of building and
Yeah, that's
bonds?
why I turned it over to you. I was
Okay.
thinking it was
Yeah.
related to the efficiency of the building of this $3.5 billion and all the awards that we've won
Yes.
for the sustainability
The
of
last
the.
one being the child education, the early childhood center, I believe. So the buildings will not be LEED certified because it just costs a lot more to apply for that LEED certification. But there are LEED concepts that go into the design and the construction, whether it's light management, utility management, recyclable materials when and where available, a green vertical hanging garden, photovoltaic or solar panels on our buildings as well. So there's a lot of sustainability design. In fact, we have architects that are designated that primarily and solely to ensure. And as we're going through the facilities master plan, we're going to ensure that the sustainability efforts, they're going to be LEED standard. Just because we're not going for that certification, we won't receive a LEED award for gold, platinum, or silver.
And I would just add real quickly, if you go back to the PowerPoint for fall convocation, I had a slide and we'll work with Caesar to send it back out. We get this data from John Parker. When I arrived in the summer of 2017, we had approximately 300 or so full-time employees. We're now approaching 400 full-time employees. And that is because of the district and the funding and the commitment to hire full-time faculty, classified professionals. And there is chatter out there about the number of managers that we've hired. But I would challenge you to look at the data, and it is clear that this district has committed to hiring full-time faculty, classified professionals, supervisors, and at every level of this organization. And all you have to do is attend a new hire institute, and you'll see the number of new faculty and classified professionals at our college. Classified professionals, supervisors.
Thank you. And a follow-up question to that, since we are now talking about hiring, is do you support a 32-hour work week as we reimagine what higher education looks like?
So all three of them looked at me, right? So let me give you, and I normally try not to answer as the president, but I have to give you a president answer, then I'm gonna give you a Ricky answer. Because I'd like to separate the two, even though I can't. The president answer is that when things are in negotiations, I've got to be very careful about how I answer because I can't get ahead of the district's negotiating team as well as the classified professionals, or in this case, the AFT negotiating team, right? So that is an active investigation. But what I can say as a researcher, if I could put my Dr. Shabazz hat on, the data is very clear in the countries that do 32-hour work weeks in terms of the quality of life that it gives. Again, I'm answering as a researcher now. It is clear at every college I've worked at, and this is number 5, that we've been able to survive 4 days a week during the summer. And so I believe with the support of the negotiation that is occurring, that we will get to a place where we will be able to answer that question better than I can answer it right now because it's in negotiations. I've seen it work.
Okay. As a community college leader, and this is for anybody, how do you foster a positive work environment and address silent quitting among employees, particularly during budget constraints?
I'm gonna share the love with Tilly and Marciano on that one.
Yeah, I was gonna try to answer that one myself. So, you know, we do see people out there that are unhappy in places where they are, and they just continue to try to do their jobs, but they find themselves not really producing what they could. And for me, I really try to look and take that as a challenge and say, how can we help? We're in a higher education institution. So how can we help our colleagues to find something that they really like, something that they want to do? And how are we able to, even with those budget constraints, trying to find a new reimagination of our workforce? That's where I kind of think about that. I don't know if you want to add to that, Marciano.
No, the things that I would add is really that our commitment is always to professional development of all of our employees, right? And so when I meet with my teams, we're always thinking about where do you want to go? Where do you see, you know, for folks that are struggling with, hey, I've been doing this job for a while and I'm trying to find like what brings me joy. And so we have honest conversations about like, does that mean going back to school? Does that mean, you know, applying for an acting or an interim role so that you can get the experience to be able to move into that next job? But at the end of the day, we're, you know, again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier, which is, you know, we're here to serve students. And so, you know, when employees are, and I like this, I hadn't heard this before, the silent quitting, but I think it's real. I think it's important to acknowledge that, you know, we have an obligation to support all of our teams and helping them to grow and to make sure that at the end of the day, that regardless of what's going on with them personally, that we're still here to serve students and that that's not lost in any of this. So how do we find the balance of doing that? And I think we've got a lot of great talent on our campus. I think we have a lot of underutilized talent on our campus. We've got a lot of folks that have been sitting in positions and have just been waiting for an opportunity to do something different. And so I think this, with the budget constraints, it gives us an opportunity to work more collaboratively and allow folks to shine in different ways, and to think, as Tilly said, creatively, thinking outside the box of how we are able to deliver some of these services with the teams that we have in place.
If I can just really quickly add that, when during COVID, we were kind of forced to move people into other spaces because during it was COVID time. And it wasn't always the spaces maybe people wanted to, but then they were placed in a new environment that they realized just how much more they could contribute. So I think that's also a piece of that we can look at as well and see, you know, can we cross divisions maybe and see what happens in a different space?
Yeah, and I would add quickly that we have job shadowing for folks who are interested in learning more about being a vice president or a president. We absolutely support professional development, but the one thing that I can promise you that none of us can do is read minds. So if you are walking around and you desire upward mobility, come to our open office hours. Let us know. Bring your resume. Come with some questions as to how we can help you accomplish your goal. And here's why. There are people who are doing that. And there's a direct correlation for the people who are doing that, who are getting promotions, right? Some of the people we introduced today were promoted. Claudia came in as a program manager. She's now a dean. Bernice is on her third tour of being the dean. She's now the permanent dean, right? And so don't be shy about sharing with your manager, even if you think they're going to block you, because I hear that sometimes. Don't be scared. Don't be scared about sharing that you have other aspirations. And I'm going to take this time to ask Erin Charlins, Dr. Erin Charlins, to stand up. She was recognized on Monday for her work on our campus throughout the state. But Erin is also an example of someone who had nearly 17 years in Umoja and wanted a different environment and said, you know what, this transfer center is open. She went through a process and now she is killing it in the transfer center. But that was not our idea. That was someone who came forward and said, look, I have other interests besides what I'm doing right now. Many of you have other interests besides what you're doing right now. And it's easier for us to get to yes, Tilly, if people will come forward and say, I have this interest, particularly if you had a plan. Erin came with a plan. And I was like, I like that. Because we don't have all the answers many times. And so if you're sitting around and you have something you want to do, don't assume that we know. And don't assume that we'll say no. We may in fact say yes. Because we don't have all the answers many times.
At this point, I'd like to remind everybody that we'd like to transition soon to questions that you have for us. I'd like to invite anybody who would like to pose a question to come over to the microphone. We'll float one more question before we begin, because this was an important theme. Many of us are concerned with campus security or lack thereof, especially in light of the recent assaults in the past few months. We're also concerned about the lack of cleanliness due to the unhoused population having access to the campus. What is being done to address these issues?
I'll start with that one. Since it was, it is serious. It was identified as priority number 2 at the time. And I think it's priority number 1 now. We can all agree. I do chair the district's police advisory committee, the health and safety committee, and I sit on the board of the Downtown San Diego Partnership, which oversees the Clean and Safe Board. And they essentially do cleaning the sidewalks and security. And that is a common theme and frustration for us. So what are we doing about it? One, I first want to thank our facilities team. If Steve is here, yes, well-deserved.
Ginger,
Yeah.
Jay,
Ginger,
everybody.
Everyone. I mean, it is really tough. We're under-resourced and understaffed, and they do their best. They're out here at dark 30.
Why are we under source and resource on that side?
Well, we have what's called if you're getting at the 50% law.
Yeah.
Yes, the 50% law, where 50% of our hires, our salaries have to be for instruction and classroom instruction, and we're very close to that as a district right now. And we have grown. Our square footage has grown 4-fold over the past 15, 20 years or so, but our FTE has not. So we're stretched very thin. They are here early in the morning, cleaning up, washing down, removing, as is our police department as well, for our unhoused neighbors who descend on our campus right at dusk. I mean, when I'm leaving here at night, they're here already. This is pretty much their residence. So, and I have seen the increase in patrols, the increase in cleaning as well, because you'll notice right outside the campus, we're pretty much surrounded by it. You may recall that recently at College Council, we discussed cameras, exterior cameras as well, which is, we've been talking about it for 2 years, and it was finally approved with an MOU with AFT, with the district. These are going to be exterior cameras, but not for surveillance, only for investigative purposes. We've had a lot of break-ins.
What does that mean, John Parker?
What that means is that there is not someone sitting at a desk or a monitor that's actively monitoring what's going on. If an incident has been reported, it will be used specifically to look at the date and time in which the incident occurred at that location. That is it. We cannot look at employees. We cannot discipline. We cannot monitor employees.
There will not be a camera on every
not
building,
a camera,
in every
no.
office.
And it's only exterior at ingress and egress points. So if an employee happens to be on camera and is recorded doing something illicit, we can't do anything about it at all. Nothing. In fact, no one will know. Only if there's an investigation at that particular time, and that is ignored essentially. So it's for certain areas, exterior egress and ingress points of buildings, certain buildings, not throughout the campus, only certain buildings. And that's not even a priority. So even though we can move forward with that now, that's probably a year from now, at which point we'll have to bring in another consultant. It's a safety consultant, security and safety consultant, which will identify where we need those cameras.
Thank you. All right. At this point, I'd like to make certain we have time for at least a couple of questions. Do we have anybody who would like to pose a question to our administrative panel?
Mazda. Well, if it's too tall for you, it's definitely too tall for me.
I have a question for our VP of A, please. If we can go to the bond measure slides. I know you've talked about priorities for the campus. Can we go back a few slides on the bond measure for the $850 million that were released? I just want to be the voice and advocate for our classroom technology. And I know you do support our, enhancing the student experience and their excellence. And as you know, a lot of the buildings here on campus are very, very old. And one of them being, the V building is one of the oldest, and Cosmo people have one of the oldest systems. So I just want to ask if in the bond measure, some of the priorities we talked about is technology, classroom technology, upgrading, improving. Is that part of the, and I think it's one slide before that. Yeah, new classrooms and career training facilities, computer science, technology, and instructional labs. Does that fall under the bond measure in terms of enhancing, improving classroom technology? Career training facilities, computer science. I was hoping not to hear it depends.
It depends.
Yeah, it depends in terms of the ranking. Right now in phase one,
Was hoping not to
the
hear it
projects that I identified, those are the priorities. However, within the 40 or so, technology is definitely in there. And it's not just a city campus, it's for the entire district. In the interim, however, as you know, we have, I think you were at the presentation a couple weeks ago. We have Lotto funds, we have IELM funds. I think we're on the second or third year of those funds. So until then, we can use it. But to answer your question, technology in the classroom and in admin spaces is part of the bond measure.
And I want to
Now-
set some expectations, John Parker. And the expectations are that the buildings that are being remodeled and built are going to be easier to integrate the technology into them. And I'll tell you the conversation I was having about Mike, and I don't know if you all hear the difference in the sound in this Seville theater. There's a new speaker box up here that was run with Mike's leadership. But when we remodel this building, all this stuff is going away. And as they remodel it, all the new technology will come in. It's just easier to do it that way. And so what I would say, because very often the vice presidents and I may not necessarily know what you need, don't assume that we know. That use our open office hours, use email, certainly working with your dean or your supervisor. But if you need something, let's make sure we document it in program review and you communicate it effectively to your leadership. Don't assume that you're going to get something or that we know that you need something.
Yes, and I'd like to add to that, very good point. If it's not on the initial list, if it wasn't in the facility strategic plan or the bond, and we go through the process of completing the capital project form, and it is in program review, the dean signs off, the VP signs off, I sign off, that is not a guarantee. It's exploratory for us to move forward and to work with the district. First, to identify that all of the priorities have been completed and that we do have funds. So there is no guarantee that it will be funded. That's projects that were not in the facility strategic plan or the bond. There's no guarantee if that form is approved completely that project will be accepted and approved.
Yeah, and what Maj is talking about, and I hate to be technical, but it is important that you all walk away with an understanding of how bonds work. When we went out to the bond, we told the voters how we were going to use these resources, which is not to what Majda is essentially saying falls under what's called deferred maintenance. That is, you can use in certain situations bond money. This really is a depend, right? And so I don't want to make a blanket statement not knowing exactly the technology or the building or the location that we're talking about. What I can assure you is that any of the buildings that are being remodeled or built will absolutely have the latest technology Some of the existing buildings will frankly be between either the bond and or deferred maintenance. Let me also say that we are, as a district, we're in a good financial situation, a much better financial situation with a reserve and the leadership that is in place now moving forward, notwithstanding what's going to happen in the state. And so this notion that Tilly brought up really does apply here, and maybe Majda will be the new "it depends," which is how do we get to yes, right? And so we may get to one building or one classroom, but we will effectively eventually get to you. There is in the millions, if not tens of millions worth of deferred maintenance that is needed on this campus. And I see some of our coaches, one of the things that fall into the deferred maintenance, frankly, is the soccer field, right? That would fall into deferred maintenance. But thank you for that question, Masha. I see another question there.
Yeah, hello, my name is Rodrigo. I'm a financial aid work study. And I just had a question because of course I'm also a student. So I'm in the cybersecurity program, and of course now we have the bachelor's program, which obviously is very much necessary for students to get an affordable education. But one of my concerns is that the classes aren't becoming more available, as in the amount of sections that are being taught. So for students like me that just need one more class and have that specific class be only taught once a year is kind of frustrating, because it will only delay my graduation and completion of my associate's degree, as well as my potential of being accepted into the bachelor's program. So I just want to know like how that's going to change for students, because I'm sure I'm not the only one, and I'm sure that this isn't the case for cybersecurity only.
And I'm
Can I?
going to ask our responders to limit themselves to no more than 1 minute if you
I can
can.
do it less than that. So I don't know, thank you, and thank you for being our student and our student worker. I don't know if you heard earlier that under instruction, we just hired a new faculty member for cyber. So not everything falls on David Kennemer's hands now. So now with an additional, we can actually take and absorb all of that as well. I can't tell you exactly today, but I did see Jesse Lopez walk in, Dean over there. So we can work with him to figure out what that sequence looks like for those that are just having the one or two classes that are hanging out there. But I'm so happy that we do have a new faculty member that has half of what it is there. Can't offer it if we don't have anyone to teach it. So I hope that answers that.
Thank you.
And we are up at the hour, so we'll take one more, then we'll transition to the chancellor, who will also, he will actually go right into taking questions after a few words, so you'll still be able to ask questions. And we are up at the hour, so we'll take any other, then we'll transition the chancellor, who will also, any, Anna, from the list that you might want to ask?
We do, actually. Okay. How is the administrative movement to become a Black serving institution taking seriously that students have demanded a complete removal of police forces, supplies, and ties, and a complete restructuring of well-funded and precise basic needs, such as safe, independent housing, tuition support, and nutritious food, because it is the minimum standard of what is life-affirming to Black students, staff, faculty, and community members?
Yeah, we can clap for that. That's we are a Black serving institution, notwithstanding any policies or the federal government. What makes us a Black serving institution? We actually are the Blackest institution. We serve more Black students than any college south of Los Angeles. And in fact, we may be serve one of the largest in the state in the Western United States. We, depending on the data and at what point you look at the data, we have approximately 13% enrollment of Black students at San Diego City College. What is even more impressive is that our faculty and staff are almost exactly 13% too, and you will very rarely find that outside of a historically Black college. There is a lot to unpack with the Black serving institution legislation, because there's a trailer bill coming that will link funding to this. there is an application that will come out any day. And so I'm working with Brian Snowden, Dr. Brian Snowden, who is out of Sacramento State, where the legislature put the Black Serving Institution legislation that when the application comes out, City College will absolutely apply. And Dr. Keith Curry out of Compton is working with an elected official, and maybe the chancellor will know his name, for the funding piece. And so once the trailer bill and the funding, assuming the legislature passes it, the governor signs it, the application comes out, we qualify, we apply, then we can start chipping away at some of the things that are the second part of that question. That doesn't mean we wait literally. There is a group that meets that I would invite anyone who this is an interest of you for as a topic. Just get with Angele in my office that we meet regularly to tackle this challenge. Matter of fact, Marciano is in charge of it as Claudia comes on as the Dean of Ideas. She'll be embedded in it. And we are in March, remind me of the date? March 28th, having a Black Student Success training planning retreat where we can link budgeting to the things that our faculty, classified professionals, supervisors, our campus believes are necessary to support our Black students. We did something similar this fall for our Latinx, and I would imagine that we will be doing this with many of our special populations here at San Diego City College. I think in the interest of time, because I now officially see the chancellor down there, we'll shift. Let's give our vice presidents a round of applause. Let's give Anna Rogers, who stood in. You did a wonderful job, Anna. And so I will invite the vice presidents to leave. And Greg, I'm not sure if you were there, one, because I only got one good eye right now, but two, I shared earlier that I was already proud to work in the San Diego Community College District, which is not perfect, as close to perfect as any place I've worked. But our chancellor stood in a room on Monday comprised of elected officials, board of trustee members, presidents, chancellors from nearly all of the 116 community college. And he raised a question and set the tone for a commitment for our district to serve and continue to serve all of the students who come to us. I don't want to steal his thunder because he may talk about that in his presentation, but let me just acknowledge that Greg is not just talking the talk, he is walking the walk on a regional level and a national level to ensure that our district is clear that we are going to protect our employees and our students through the rhetoric and the changes in policy at the federal level. Let's give a warm City College round of applause for our Chancellor, Greg Smith. Let's give a warm City College round of applause for our Chancellor, Greg Smith.
Good morning. I love being at City College. The energy walking onto this campus is unique, it's distinct, it's singular. I get to go to a lot of different colleges around the state. Good morning. And you can tell when you're at City College. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you this morning. As Ricky was saying, when back in the summer, actually, I started talking with Chancellor's Cabinet about adding a spring Chancellor's Forum. Many of you know that for many years, there's been a fall forum. It's been presentations. It's not really been conversational. My interest was coming back out and having much more of an open conversation. And so I wanted to do a town hall format for this. Ricky's going to come back up in a little bit and join me. There may be some things that come up that he can better speak to. But there are a few updates I want to do, and not in a presentation, PowerPoint kind of a way, but just to tell you about some things going on. So let's start with some positives. And I know I was tuned in on YouTube earlier, seeing some of the initial comments and presentations, just saw information about the bond. Measure HH and its success is a huge positive for our district. First, we gained over 60% voter support on Measure HH in a time when a city tax proposal and multiple county tax proposals couldn't even get to 50%. I think that speaks volumes around how our communities see and value the work that we're doing, the work that you are doing. And to have that level of support relative to other measures is a really strong endorsement for our colleges, for our district, and for the next couple of decades, us being able to continue to evolve to serve our communities. Our district did a lot of work over the course of the fall in anticipation of being successful, and it was a relatively small risk. We spent a few $1,000s to do requests for proposals and qualifications for all of the firms that would need to do the work to do a bond issuance. Statewide, there were more than 100 successful municipal bonds, more than $45 billion that voters approved. Our district did its first issuance on January 10th. I think that was discussed earlier because I just heard some talk about that. We beat everybody to the market because we had those finance, legal, and other consultants in place to get us ready. We got some really good advice from someone on doing that. We locked in, we initially went with an $850 million par value, as they say, issuance. It ended up being right about $900 million at under 4.5% on the interest rate. Incredible savings for our property owners who are going to be paying on those bonds. And perhaps most importantly, we will be very early to the market to lock in actual construction contracts, the materials and the labor. And let me first say that, you know, the devastation of the fires in LA, I know so many of us have friends, family, personal connections, saw childhood homes burn, saw our friends and family lose their homes. The individual devastation of those fires is extraordinary, unlike anything I've personally seen over the course of my life. I've been in contact with my colleagues at Glendale Community College District, Pasadena City College. I've heard that dozens of employees at both districts have lost their homes, hundreds of students. And so very mindful of the personal impact. The impact that that'll have on our bond program, is also something that we're going to need to think about and manage. There is going to be a severe demand and then shortage of labor and materials as those communities start to rebuild. And so getting out early puts us in a better position to maximize the value of our bond program while minimizing the cost to our property owners. And just to get technical for just a minute, that question about technology in the bond program, let me address it from this perspective. Technology is a very big term that covers a lot of different things. So a bond program is effectively a 30-year loan. You would not take out a 30-year loan to buy a computer that's going to last you for 5 years, right? Because you are going to end up paying multiple times the cost of that computer. And so when we talk about technology in a bond program, the infrastructure that goes into the walls, so running the wires and cables we need, large items like servers that are going to last for a couple of decades, absolutely makes sense. And as Ricky was saying, if you're building a new space, putting in that infrastructure and the fixtures, furnishings and equipment that might go into that. So the things that are hanging on the wall, the chairs in the room, all of that might make sense. Going into an existing space and buying laptops and tablets is a really good way to make sure that your community never passes another bond, because they're going to say you used 30-year financing on something that should have been a short-term expenditure. So it's very important that we look at the full range of funding options we have for technology and align the right expense to the right category. And so as John Parker mentioned, using lottery funds or using deferred maintenance and instructional equipment funding we get from the state is the right way to do those types of technology expenditures, not a bond program. A little bit technical there for a moment. So with what we've done on that initial $900 million issuance, will allow us to start breaking ground around the district as early as late 2026. So right now there are requests for proposals to have 3 project or program management organizations. We're splitting this bond program into essentially new construction, major renovation of existing facilities, and then health and safety type issues coming in and addressing water systems or HVAC systems, et cetera. And we'll have 3 different program management organizations managing those types of projects. Once those are in place, then we'll start to go out for the design firms. So we need architects who are going to come in and start to do design on the work. And then once the designs are finalized, and by the way, the design stage is where the campus participation will really start to ramp up. So having the people that will be using those spaces, the faculty and classified professional supervisors and managers who are going to be in those spaces operating, coming in and consulting on what needs to be part of the design of the building, and then thinking about the use and what kind of fixtures and equipment need to go into that. Once that's complete, then we'll actually go out for the construction contracts. And so that'll take us into 2026. And so it could be as early as kind of the latter part of that year. A lot of it'll start in early 2027. But on the time frame of a bond program, that is incredibly fast. From voter approval to actually breaking ground, 2-year time frame is pretty quick. So very happy about the work that's been done on that. The other thing about the bond program I want to share is Props S&N in 2002 and 2006, our district consulted for a lot of the additional work that needs to be done. So when you're managing a bond program, you need a lot of people doing the accounting of the funds, you need legal review, you need to be prepared for audits, you need to have security and safety on the sites where the construction is actually happening. We had upwards of 50 people working through consulting contracts in various forms for the district at the height of Props S&N. None of them were district employees. We rented space in the building right next to the district office to house all of those additional people working on behalf of the district. We went back and looked at the cost of doing that. And frankly, we could save money on the bond program, one, but two, perhaps more importantly, actually hire people that will be district employees for as long as 10 years, that become part of our mission, integrated into who we are as a community, and I think have a much higher sense of connection to the program, to the students, to the faculty, the people that are doing this work, and have them be district employees. And so I've asked Vice Chancellor Peterson, Vice Chancellor Troy, and some others to look at what are the things that we can't hire for. So a highly specialized role like an architect would be very difficult to hire for. We'll need to consult for that. But hiring someone to do the accounting and the auditing, we can absolutely hire for that. Let's hire employees instead of contracting out for that work. And so you will start to see over the next couple of months proposals around the positions that we need to create. You'll start to see those come to the Board of Trustees for approval. I've asked Joel to put together some PowerPoint slides that can be shared in various forums and formats. And so you'll start to see this information come out, but wanted to let you know the bigger picture, what we're wanting to accomplish, why we want to accomplish it before you see those details start to emerge. Next thing I want to talk about is the budget, another area of good news, both state and locally. So I think I heard Ricky say in the last segment that we have, over the last couple of years, rebuilt our general fund unrestricted reserve. We were in a very precarious place financially when I joined the district. At about 5% of our total expenses did we have in a reserve. That's the legal minimum. The Chancellor's office, working with financial management organizations, has recommended 2 months of reserve. We finished this last year at just over 20%. 2 months is 16.67. We have the funds now to withstand uncertainty, and that's about to be extremely important. And I'll talk a bit about what happened on Monday and 12 hours of absolute chaos. But our ability to say to our undocumented resource centers, our pride centers, whatever happens with federal funding, we are committed to maintaining our current level of services and expanding that to meet the needs of our communities. I can say that with confidence because in the case of emergency, I can go to the board and say, I need $5 million out of that reserve this year to spend on those services. And I'm saying it very publicly in very many spaces. If that's what it takes, I will do it. And the board will support it. So know that we are prepared for that uncertainty. The most valuable resource that we can have is time. The time to keep services intact now and then plan for what happens 6 months from now, a year from now, 18 months. And so we have that luxury and we have the ability to buy that time. Of course, advocating with the state to have additional funds to be able to backfill that, finding every different way we can do it. But know that if it comes to it, we will use the funds that we've built up in this moment. Absolutely is an emergency, and that's the time to use those. So the state budget is in a much healthier place than it was last year. Last year at this time, the Legislative Analyst's Office was saying we have a $90 billion shortfall. The governor's office was saying we have a $20 billion shortfall. Whichever number you wanted to use, it wasn't good. This year, today, we're about $16 billion above what was projected in revenues. The majority of that additional revenue is because 5 technology stocks, companies like NVIDIA, Meta, Alphabet, have done incredibly well over the last year. And the wealthiest Californians have received a lot of dividends or have sold those stocks and a lot of profit and paid taxes on them. So the way that the state views those funds is kind of as one-time funds. You can't count on next year similar stock market gains and funding. And so there will be a lot of interest in how one-time spending versus ongoing spending happens. The governor's budget proposal proposed ongoing spending for a 2.43% COLA, which is great news for us. Proposed ongoing funding for a 0.5% of growth funding. That's not nearly enough. This past weekend, we were in Sacramento telling all of our assembly members and senators, we grew above that 0.5%. We have a lot of unfunded FTS in the prior year. Those need to be funded, and we need 1.5% growth funding in this next year to meet the demands of our local community and increase access for our students. That message is being heard and received very positively. I have a lot of confidence as we sit here today that we'll see that in the May revision to the governor's proposal, with the caveat that if there is a dramatic swing in the national economy that affects the state economy and revenues, that picture could change. But our elected officials understand and are interested in expanding access. And so we have good news locally in our ability to have flexibility to withstand whatever might be coming around federal funding. We have strong revenues in the state right now to be able to expand funding. There are a number of other things that we've been talking about at the state level. So to give us more flexibility, using some of those one-time funds to have a block grant that each district would be able to determine, do we need to use that to backfill or expand services for our immigrant communities, for our LGBTQI+ communities, respond to natural disasters, allow each district to identify its emergency priorities with those funds and be able to use them. And again, that was also really well received. So I feel very good overall as I sit here thinking about our financial situation. The other good news is enrollment. Across the district right now for the spring semester, we are up double-digit percentage points, every single college. And I'm relatively confident that we have identified 99% plus of the fraudulent enrollments, and those are real numbers with real people who are looking to take classes, get a degree, and improve their life. The Educational Services Division at the district office and our IT folks deserve a lot of credit and thanks for what is a very manual process of going to identify, as do our faculty who are seeing the roster of people show up in their class and proactively looking to find out, is this an actual person? Are they showing up? Whether that's online or in person, and working together to address that. We're looking at other resources to address fraudulent enrollments. There's a new AI software application that I've heard from some of my colleagues. They're very impressed with the outcomes. So we're looking to bring more resources, but this is going to be a constantly evolving thing as we add more layers of protection. The people that want to do fraud of financial aid and get that money are going to find new ways around it. So this is just our reality, probably indeterminately for as long as financial aid continues to be available. But the enrollment is strong. We are over 39,000 FTES district-wide for this year. That is well above where we were in 2019, 2020 before COVID hit. And we're getting very close to eclipsing 40,000 and being back to where we were in 2018. So this is excellent news. I've said it in many spaces. it tells me two things. One, our communities see the value of what we're offering and the potential for them to improve their lives and for their family. And it speaks volumes to the extremely hard work that you are doing around scheduling, outreach, financial aid, enrollment, counseling. At every level, the work that you're doing is connecting with our communities and bringing them back into our program. So thank you for the work that you're doing. Okay, final thing I want to address before I open up, and we truly do have a town hall where it's more you giving me feedback, questions, et cetera, is all of the things that have happened with the federal government over the last 10 days now or so. Let me start by saying this. Sunday before last, many of you were with me out at the Martin Luther King Jr. Day Parade. It was an amazing event. Our district showed up in force to be in community. It was inspiring and uplifting. I felt great coming back from that. Monday morning, I was at the Alliance San Diego All People's Breakfast, and that was an incredibly uplifting and inspiring space to be in. And for a moment, I was not thinking about what was happening last Monday in Washington, D.C. and what might be coming after that. That breakfast ended around noon. I got back to my car and then started to look at my phone and see all of the things that were coming in. And from about noon on Monday last week until 9:30 p.m. Monday this week, I was immersed pretty much nonstop. When I was awake, I was digesting what was happening and trying to figure out what it meant and what we needed to do. And I know those times specifically because I was in Sacramento Friday through Monday, and I got back to San Diego about 9 p.m., got home about 9:20, and my wife asked, "So how was it?" And I had been so immersed in these conversations that I just launched right in. Well, it started to hit her with all of the unfortunate things that are developing that we're going to have to respond to. And she cut me off in a couple minutes and said, "It's like 9:30. This is way too heavy." You are absolutely right. Like, my brain is not in a healthy space right now. And so the first thing I just want to say to everyone is please take time to shut off the outside world and engage in whatever it is that is healthy for you to maintain your mental health, to renew your passion and energy for yourself, your family, your community. You cannot be always on and doing your best work. And I have to recognize when that's happening to me, because sometimes I don't have a choice in how my schedule is going to go, but I can start to see when the quality of my work right now is not where it should be. And that's the signal. It's time to disengage for an hour or two or 6 or a day and come back to it when I can bring my full potential to that work. So please take care of yourself. Don't feel like you need to be seeing every news update and figuring out what's going on. It is healthy, it is okay, and I'm encouraging you to make time to break away from it. And whatever it is that renews you, go do that. And don't apologize for it, don't feel bad about it. That is you taking care of yourself so that you can continue to take care of each other in our community. While I was in Sacramento, I heard a few things that I absolutely needed to hear. One of them was that, and this reminds me of something that was said at the HUBU conference here at City College, I think about 18 months ago now. A really powerful speaker said, we have a responsibility, meaning we have the capacity to act, to respond, and we have a responsibility. Because we have that capacity, we have an obligation to take action. And that really frames my understanding of this moment. I have a responsibility, the capacity in this role greater than any I've ever had in my life, which means I have an obligation to use that capacity. I have a responsibility. It's up to us that have the ability to resist things that are unhealthy for our community, for our families, even when we don't necessarily have to. And what I mean by that is that as a cisgender, heterosexual, white man, American-born, multi-generations here, and tall, I could very easily just quietly back off. Nobody knows as I walk down the street what my political affiliation is, what my personal beliefs might be. I could avoid being the subject of anybody's wrath, really. And occasionally, as I go into a coffee shop or a restaurant, somebody does immediately assume your politics must align with mine. So let me say something that I think you're just going to nod in agreement with, that I absolutely do not agree with. And I let them know that. But letting them know that is really important. And standing up when I don't have to is really important, because for many people, they do not have that luxury of just kind of receding and staying safe. But letting them know that the attack is going to come find them. And so those of us that it is a choice to stand up and put ourselves in opposition to things that would harm our community, our families, our loved ones, I see it as an obligation. We have to stand up and do that, because too many people aren't going to be asked, what is your political belief? It's going to be assumed based on the way they present themselves, identify the color of their skin, and they are going to be attacked for it. And so I'm here to do that work. I heard Senator Dr. Weber Pearson say at the Black Educators Excellence Award, where our own Dr. Charlins was celebrated, we woke up and found a mountain in front of us. We've moved mountains before. And I needed to hear that too. This is entirely doable. And so when I was writing the message, you may or may not have had a chance to read last night, that ended with City College, the College of Continuing Education, have been here for more than 110 years. Mesa and Miramar, 60-ish years, our district, 50 years. A lot of things have happened in that time, right? When City College was founded, Jim Crow was still very much a thing in our country. We have overcome many, many challenges to our basic humanity. So we're up to the task. How do I know? Because we've done it before. And I picked up that legacy of the people that have done that before. And I'm here to honor their legacy by doing it well. So I feel empowered in this moment, knowing that we're not confronting anything that we haven't seen before. It takes on a different flavor. There's new tools and technologies to allow the way that people go after human rights, our humanity. But we know how to endure. So a couple of things that have happened at the federal level. And kind of framing my response and your expectations around my responses. A lot of my colleagues around the state were issuing messages on on Tuesday as this federal freeze was being announced. I did not rush to issue a message because I didn't know exactly what was going to happen. And if there is something that Donald Trump is extremely good at, it's saying things that require other people to say, well, what it actually means is this, and I think what'll happen is that. And nobody actually knows. And so I don't want to participate in that by stirring up anxiety and fear just because he went and typed something in on X or Truth Social or whatever else, or pontificated in front of a camera nonsensically. I'm not going to buy into that. I'm not going to give him the power to disrupt my day in life because he decided to just say some things. I strongly encourage all of you to join me in that. Say, okay, you wrote some things. I'm not going to immediately react to that. I'm not going to let you determine how the rest of my day is going to go. I'm going to see what's real and then respond to that. Now, what I did do on the back end was communicate out to a lot of different people that have a voice in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. to say the impacts of what this is maybe means would be devastating to our students, to our faculty, to our professionals. And you have a voice in a different space that needs to make sure that's understood. And so we saw a 12-hour period where we went from all federal funding is stopped. No, we don't mean Medicare or Social Security or student aid, but all other federal funding to no, we don't mean things that were already approved. We just mean new funding to, okay, that memo's rescinded. Federal funding stopped. So I waited until that played out before I tried to communicate anything out to you, because I don't feel that it'd be all that helpful for me to say, this sounds bad. We're figuring out what that means. Hang tight. So I waited until. I want to come to you with actual concrete information that we know what it means and that you can then act on if that's what's necessary. What did happen in that, though, that was very good is it was bipartisan. And in this moment, I've also, embraced the fact that I need to be talking to as many Republican lawmakers as possible about what's going on, because they have a voice in spaces that'll be heard very differently. And that brings up two ways that needs to happen immediately. So the shock and awe campaign, as it's been called, which I think is a wonderful label for it, because if you know the origins of shock and awe, you know that a very big lie was told and it was used to justify a war. And we feel very much in that moment again. So one of the things that's happening that most people don't know about, because it's incredibly technical and buried in a very large document, is that the House and Means Committee in the House of Representatives is looking at a proposal to extend the 2017 tax cuts on people that make over $400,000 a year in wealthy corporations. In order to extend those, they have to come up with revenue to offset it. About a $4 trillion problem they need to solve for. Buried in this very large document is to end the tax exemption for municipal and local government bonds. There are 5 states that have the authority to do this: California, Texas, Florida, New York, and Illinois. 3 of those states have Democratic governors, Democratic legislators, and are very much the target of this administration. That would include us. So we issued $700 million of non-taxable bonds, $150 million of taxable bonds in this issue. We did the taxable specifically for the City College Housing Program because it's a requirement if you're going to generate revenue off of what you build with those bonds. And long term, I think there's the opportunity to have retail, coffee shop, restaurant type activities, naming rights that we could use to create revenue to decrease the cost of rent for students, or even endow beds to have them be free. So we wanted to give ourselves that flexibility. But what is buried in that Ways and Means bill would add about $1 billion in cost to our property owners to pay the tax debt on those bonds if it passed. I said earlier, $45 billion in these types of bonds passed this year. That would add about $13 billion of cost to California property owners to pay for this tax cut. State Center Community College District in Fresno passed a bond. The majority of their landowners are farmers who are Republican. I need them calling their Republican representatives saying, you are not going to pay for this tax cut on the backs of my property. And that voice will be heard very differently than when I'm the one saying it. Or if we're using Scott Peters or Juan Vargas or Sarah Jacobs, our representatives, to say it. When we can create the discord within their own party, it very much changes the narrative. And so that's the kind of work that we have to be doing. There is absolutely an attack on our immigrant, refugee, and asylum-seeking communities and on our LGBTQIA+ communities. He has done it very explicitly in these executive orders. And so what we started doing back in the fall, got some very good advice from Dr. Carl Luna. Some of you may know him. He taught at Mesa College for many years and at University of San Diego. He reached out and said, I highly encourage you to start making plans now for what if Donald Trump wins the election and he starts to follow through on Project 2025 and some of these promises. So in the fall, we looked at about $20 million of federal funding that we received to support different programs. Title III, HSI, and NAPZ grant money, for example. We identified about $2 million that goes to support undocumented students and our Pride centers. We've already received those funds. We're working to get every dollar spent. So if they come asking for them, we say, sorry, money's gone. You can't have it back. We don't have it. Also, I assume we will not see those funds again for 4 years, right? So we need to plan for that, and we can plan for that. The other funds legally should require an act of Congress. So Title III HSI grants were established in the Higher Education Authorization Act passed by Congress. My fear is that the House and the Senate seems to be okay with abdicating their power and saying, yeah, if you say so, we'll just let it go. And so we've looked at what would we do if all of those funds stop. Maybe they legally owe them to us, but he offered 2 million federal workers the option to resign and they'd take it up on it and there's nobody there to do the work. Like there could be many ways to disrupt it. How will we backfill that? How will we pivot to be able to continue our services? What would absolutely have to stop because there is no option? And then let that inform our advocacy with the state. If these funds go, we have nothing left to backfill. We need your help. And so we've already started that conversation with our assembly members and senators around that. That's the kind of work that what is happening in Washington, D.C. is largely creating. Final thing before we open this up, Ricky mentioned it. So I very publicly at the CCLC Legislative Conference stood up and offered everybody another highly technical thing that has happened that is actually, of everything that's happened, is the one that concerns me most. Many of you know that I worked at the U.S. Department of Labor before I came back to the community college system as an employee. I usually just say it that way. Department of Labor is a very big agency. It has a lot of different sub-agencies within it. The organization I worked in is called the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs. It's a mouthful. It's an EEO, an affirmative action enforcement agency. It exists because in 1965, President Lyndon Johnson signed Executive Order 11246, which says, basically, it should be the policy of the United States of America that no one is the subject of discrimination based on their race, ethnicity, color, national origin, later amended to add gender, and then later amended to add gender identity and sexual orientation. It goes on to say that if you're a federal contractor, if you're selling a good or service or doing construction work for a federal agency, if you're selling planes to Department of Defense and you're Boeing, that you'll take affirmative action to make sure there's no discrimination. It was written in 1965. It doesn't include words like diversity, equity, inclusion, anti-racism, accessibility, woke. So under the heading of an executive order that says ending illegal discrimination, he rescinded Executive Order 11246. Now, that doesn't make sense. If you're trying to end illegal discrimination, why would you take away one of the primary ways to make sure illegal discrimination doesn't happen? So when I saw that, I went and read Chapter 18 of Project 2025, and there it is. Eliminate Executive Order 11246, eliminate the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs, replace the Democratic commissioners on the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, rescind the EEO-1 reporting requirement. That is, every employer in the United States who has 2 or more employees must offer each employee the opportunity to self-identify their race, ethnicity, and gender. You must collect that information and then report it to the EEOC in 10 different categories of employment: executive managers, professionals, technicians, administrative workers, sales workers, skilled, unskilled labor. It gives you a way to see very quickly, are there barriers to people being employed in this organization based on their race, ethnicity, and gender? I looked at many of these in my 12 years in the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs, and I could see down in the skilled labor, unskilled labor, the majority of employees identifying as Hispanic, Black, Asian, Native American, and in the executive level, none of that diversity. 100% of positions being white males, for example. That was not entirely uncommon. And it was a great data point to then say, I need to look further into this. Give me your application data, your hiring data, and we had the power as the Department of Labor to do that. No employee had to come file a complaint. No person had to say, wait a minute, it feels like there might be discrimination happening here. Let me go ask somebody to investigate this. It's proactive enforcement. It's very important to creating compliance. And I heard from many employers, we appreciate having this because it's clearly defined what discrimination is, the process for identifying it, and the steps we need to take for remedying it. So if I want to do the right thing, how do I do the right thing? That's what OCCP did. That's what those regulations did. So eliminating all of those steps, eliminating the EEO-1 report is gutting civil rights enforcement right at its core. It's too far a step right now politically in America to rescind the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Next best thing is just to make it inoperable. And that's not just an attack on immigrant communities. That's not just an attack on LGBTQI+ communities. It is an attack on them too. That's an attack on Black, Hispanic, Latina, Asian, every community that has been historically marginalized in America, going back to our history of genocide against indigenous populations, to enslavement of Africans, to Jim Crow. It's rolling all of that back to being able to do those kinds of things again without any legal recourse. So that's what I stood up and said there, and then sent out a message to a lot of different people. And I just found out by virtue of this, one of the trustees in that room is a member of LULAC, who then talked to Senator Chuck Schumer about this yesterday. These are the kinds of things that are happening that are far more quiet than pause federal funding, everybody's freaked out, what are we going to do? That are far more sinister in my mind. So a glimpse into the kind of things I'm working on, the way I am evaluating what's coming out of Washington, D.C., and what we need to be doing as a district. And again, using my position to stand up and defend the rights of our community, our students, employees, our district, with this role I have. So with all of that, I would like to spend the rest of our time, about 30 minutes, in a true town hall. Whatever questions you have, if you want to make comments, you want to offer me feedback, I want to hear from you.
Who has the first question?
Excuse me, I'm a little nervous. I wasn't thinking of speaking, but something
First question.
caught my attention just before you came on the stage. My name is Adam Walaling, and I'm a retired professor, just working pro rata. And what caught my attention, what made me perk up, was what you said about a Black serving institution for City College. The year I was hired, that was in 1991, I was a doctoral student at a university in Pennsylvania. And I was not one of the candidates that had the inside track on what was going on, but I was hired, and the district, in fact, paid for my relocation and things like that. That year, 22 African-American staff members and faculty people were hired. But I see that the Black population is fading away, and I hope that this will revive interest in African-American faculty members and staff, because we have a lot of African-American students. And I would like to see what kind of commitment you have to that goal. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So here's my very specific thing that I would like us to do as a district. Within California, Prop 209 prevents us from being clear about the benefits of hiring a diverse workforce and hiring for that diversity. We can be absolutely clear about the students we're serving and what qualifications we want somebody to bring to the table. And so what I want us to start doing is advertising very clearly when we're out recruiting for a job. You will need to demonstrate in your application materials and in your interview how you will increase success outcomes for our Black students, for our Hispanic students, for our Indigenous students, for our disabled students, et cetera. And have that be as important to us as the educational qualification or the technical qualification someone brings to the table. I'd say it like this. I don't care if you're the world's foremost expert in physics, if I'm in your class and you're unwilling to teach me in a way that I will learn physics. I don't need the smartest person. I need the one who's willing to adapt to the needs of each student community. And so I think being very intentional about that is how we address that. We need to be clear. As City College goes through this process and becoming a Black serving institution, it's already a Hispanic serving and an Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander serving institution. We need to be crystal clear on what we expect of anybody coming to join us in this work. And that is that you already bring those skills to the table, not something that we expect you to learn over the course of 20 years and maybe you start to get good at it. What we expect of anybody coming to join us in this work, and that is that you already.
How you doing, Chancellor Greg? It's good to see you again. Thank you for all the work you've done for us. And can y'all hear me? Sorry.
Yes, we can.
I don't know why I'm speaking so low, but once again, I want to say thank you for all you've done. And I know my brother's not here, but I know me and you, we met before and we connected. And like President Ricky was saying, that you don't just talk, you're always about it. So as soon as I left your office, I already was getting calls. So I do appreciate you for real. So thank you. Being a refugee, coming from Kenya, coming from a war in Somalia, and coming here, getting our citizenship here. My mom had to get it in 2006 with all that's going on right now. And like I said, I know you, so I know what you're about, but I just want to let you know that our school is public, so anybody could walk in anytime. It's not an elementary school, so there's no like check-in points. What is you and your team doing about that? And for someone like me, I love to advocate for myself and others. And I like to be vocal, and whether I'm tenured or not, I don't care, I'm all about principles, and I know everything is from God, but what are some ways, or are we gonna have any trainings, and what could we say? Is there limited? Because I'm not trying to get fined if I say something crazy, but yeah, what are some things that we can do? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. Great to see you again. So I heard Mona talk about this in her remarks. I was listening on YouTube. We convened a emergency meeting of the District Governance Council yesterday to update Administrative Procedure 3415 to restrict the ability to represent the district with anybody acting in an official capacity around immigration enforcement, and actually wrote a lot more broadly to just any kind of government entity in whatever role they might be. They're a direct agent, they're a contractor, however they want to label themselves. The only two people in the district that can engage with them are me and General Counsel. And did that so that, one, I would have something in writing that says, you have no business being at City College to begin with, because you're here to conduct government business. You're not just a member of the public. If you want to walk in on your off time and go to the library, okay, you can do that. But if you're here to conduct business, we do that at 3375 Camino del Rio South, not at City College. I fully recognize that an ICE agent isn't going to be aware of our procedure, right? And so last night I sent out the first draft. There'll be revisions and it can look prettier, but I wanted to get people information right away that they could have. Information that you could print and have a card to be able to hand it to them that basically says that. You're here to do whatever business it is, you're in the wrong place, you need to go there. And you don't have to utter a word. You can just hand them the card, read it, and move on. If they persist past that, this is where I need you to call college police and immediately let them know, because that triggers several communications that'll happen, so that I or our general counsel or our outside counsel can come and immediately engage with them and tell them, you do not have a legal authority to be here. We have not consented to this. And that starts to trigger additional legal protections. So if we end up in court and they're pursuing an enforcement action against an individual as part of immigration enforcement, we can come in and say they obtained that information illegally. It is not admissible here. I can't determine what a judge is going to do with that, but layering as many different protections as we can so we can hit it from as many different angles as we can. It's going to evolve. We're going to have to continue to see how are they changing their tactics, and then how do we need to evolve. But I hope you see my commitment in just that. Let's come together. Let's get a procedure in place so we can immediately start to take action. We'll continue to evolve to figure that out. I'll continue to evolve to figure that out. Now, the other part of what you asked about, I also addressed in an email I sent out last night, that somebody might come on and they have no official government capacity. They have a right to be here. They have freedom of speech rights, so they can stand and say things we don't like. They do not have the right to harass individuals. So if somebody wants to come stand outside of our undocumented student center and start to harass students, we can and will take action on that to remove them from our campus. So we have tools available. We're going to use those. And you asked about the training. That's what is happening up at the district office right now, starting to work on putting together materials that can be posted in different places, that can be sent out in different ways. Recording a video, had recommendations that we actually do kind of a simulation of this. Somebody who presenting themselves as an enforcement agent. Here's a way that you can respond. You can see it. You can watch it in 90 seconds. We'll continue to develop those and push those out. I mean, this is going to be a 4-year process, so there'll be a lot of opportunity to continue to conduct this kind of training. The main thing I want to say, though, is Nobody in this room is expected to put themselves in an uncomfortable position or in harm's way in an enforcement interaction. Give them the information and walk away. Let me do that. I have a way of being able to engage with them that's going to go very differently. I am not asking you to physically restrain anyone or detain anyone. Simply hand them the information and walk away. And then let me put myself into that position.
Thank you, Chancellor.
If I could add real quick, the training piece is underway already in the Know Your Right workshops. And those are being emailed out, and the frequency in which they are occurring has been increased through the district as well. And so when you see that title, Know Your Rights, it's not just for students, it's for anyone who wants to come. There's legal counsel there, there's advocacy groups there. So those trainings are already underway, and we already increased the frequency in which they're occurring.
Thank you, President Shabazz, and welcome, Chancellor Smith. And you know I have a difficult question for you. So I was listening to Ricky talk about our commitment to becoming a Black serving institution. And of course, we're a Latinx serving institution, Asian Pacific Islander serving institution, which really includes a lot of identities. And many of those identities are, in addition to not feeling comfortable with ICE, immigration, they also don't feel comfortable with police. So I have a two-part question, considering that population and how they feel about police and how police show up on our campus. How are we planning to make students feel safe and welcome in the presence of police who don't represent safety to our students, especially considering efforts to increase surveillance and to arm our police with additional weapons? So the second question is who's going to hold our police accountable? I know their contract does make it difficult to hold police accountable and rein them in when needed. And so I'm really curious, how is the district going to keep our students safe from our own police? And I think this is especially relevant because there's been a lot of frustration with the Police Advisory Task Force, and we recently lost one of our really important members, Patrick Velasquez.
Thank you for the question, Mona. I appreciate the opportunity to address this, and I'll expand it a little bit because the question that was asked for the previous panel, I think framed it in a little bit different way about why do we even have a police force at all. So I'll take the opportunity to address that since you brought it up, and I don't shy away from the difficult questions, so don't hesitate with the difficult questions. I have a difficult job. I have to answer difficult questions. I signed up for it. So let me start with that bigger question about why even have a police force. First answer is it's required by law to either have our own district police force or to contract with another police force to provide those services. We do not have a choice. So if we don't have it, it's San Diego PD or it's the county sheriff. To your question about who's going to hold our police accountable, if it's San Diego PD or the county sheriff, we really have very little that we can do around accountability. If we have our own, I get to enforce the accountability. And it feels weird for me to say it that way. I don't like saying it like that necessarily. I don't feel like my position is hierarchical and a power expression, but it is sometimes, and this is one place where I'm absolutely comfortable saying that if our police behave in a manner that is not consistent with our values and our educational mission, I will not hesitate to address that. And there have been some things that have happened during my time in this position that we've already addressed within our police. That said, I also want to humanize our police a little bit because I do get to interact with them right from the day I started with the district as the district's lead negotiator working with the Police Officers Association. I have met many of those people, humans, just like us. And I know that many people in our police force absolutely see themselves as part of our educational mission and not in the way that other law enforcement individuals or agencies might. There isn't a strong desire to militarize in the way that we often hear in other police organizations. I have asked them, as they've asked me, to proactively engage in building more relationships at the college level, at the campus level, with faculty, with students. We sit down and interact with each other the stereotypes around who we might think each other are start to fall away, and we actually start to see the actual person behind it. And so as much as they've come and said, how can you help us with the way that we're being perceived in the colleges, part of my answer is you can help yourself. Go over and say hello, introduce yourself, find out who's on campus, who you're serving, and what their concerns and priorities are, and be responsive to that. Around immigration enforcement, I've met with our police chief, with our vice chancellor. I've made it very clear what our district policy and procedure on this is going to be. And if any individual within our police force or any other place decides that they have personal values that conflict with our procedure and they want to exercise those, there will be immediate and severe consequences for that. To the police advisory committee and the other parts of your question, that committee has been, I'll say, bogged down by the question of conducted energy devices or tasers for more than 2 years now. Before I was in the chancellor role, this question was presented to the committee, and that process unfortunately has taken a very long time, and it has dominated the discussion. The original intent of that committee to be bringing many different voices to help shape how our police department evolves in the way that they're dressed, in the way that they conduct themselves, and what their mission is. That hasn't happened to the degree that it should have. The committee has delivered its recommendation on conducted energy devices. I am continuing to ask for input from other stakeholders, our Senate's classified and academic, other representative groups in our district governance council before I bring anything to the board of trustees. But now the police advisory committee can move on. And so Mona, the question you ask is timely of what is the committee's role going to be, who's going to be on that committee, and what's expected of them. They were created by Chancellor Emerita Carroll to be advisory to the chancellor. And so I'm going to have very specific asks of them going forward that are very much geared around what I think you're asking here, is how can we ensure that individuals and communities that have been terrorized by police for the entirety of our country's history understand and see our police as something very different than that. Even though legally they have to carry some of the same visual paraphernalia, even though they will exist in the context of a national conversation with very different things happening in different parts of the country. How can we understand in words, action, and visually that they are something different? It's going to be a very important question to me.
Thank you.
Hi, Chancellor Smith. My name is Mireya Gutierrez Agüero, and I'm proud to be the EOPS Care Next Up Director. Given, as you know, I don't need to explain this to you, you know, it was started out of the civil rights movement, Chicano movement as well. And so it's an honor for me to be here at City. I've been here for 1 year and 4 months. Given the political climate, given where we are, where we've been in the last, since the 20th, I just want to tell you that I don't have a challenging question to you because you've been answering them. And so I have more of a statement to you. I can't tell you how refreshing it is to hear you, to know that you are so self-aware of the fact of who you are, and yet you are advocating. You're really connected to to the students at City College. And that means a lot. I love the fact that you're researching, you're doing your due diligence, and that you're a co-conspirator. And as a coin turned by Dr. Bettina Love, it means a lot. You have no idea how I've been feeling, and I'm just super happy that we have a phenomenal leader as a chancellor. I thank you for doing the work that you're doing. And more than anything, we need you. And we need you to continue to be brave. And we are brave. But we also recognize that as people of color, we have a disadvantage. in that we can say exactly what you're saying and it's not going to be taken well. And so thank you from the bottom of my heart for using your positionality to advocate and stand up for the people of color here. Thank you.
Before we go to the next question, just quickly, one, you're welcome. Two, I will absolutely continue. Three, I don't have any of your lived experience. I know what I know. There's so much I don't know. So please do not hesitate to reach out and let me know what's missing from my understanding or what I haven't said yet or what I haven't done yet. I need that feedback in order to do this job to the best of my ability. And so the more that you can share about what's happening, what you're experiencing, what advocacy you need, the better I can continue to expand what I'm doing to meet that, because I only know what I know, right? And there's a lot I know I don't know that I can go and learn. There's a lot I don't even know I don't know, and you can help me.
Good morning, Chancellor Greg Smith. Good morning, City College community. My name is Lydia Backett. I'm the Business Office Support Supervisor here at this college. So first, I do want to thank you, just as Mireya did. I think that you are very self-aware, as she said, and I really appreciate how intentional and how careful you are and how you move forward. I think, with the world and how everything is fast-paced and people just want to get the word out, I think it's very wise to first do the research, assess how can we play a role in what we wish to do according to our mission, talk to one another and then get the message out. So again, I thank you for that and how you are choosing to move forward based on everything that you are reviewing. So for what I'm here to say is, again, thank you, but also how can we, everyone here in this room, people who are watching online, how can we help with just sharing ideas or just being a part of the discussions that we will need to do within these next 4 years? I know this question is asked very early because we all essentially don't know with what will be happening. Things change every minute, every hour with the new administration. But I think there are people who are interested in, again, just being a part of that discussion. So I think it would be wonderful to start thinking of groups and committees that we can form at the respective colleges. Again, classified professionals, supervisors as myself, management, and our students to start advocating for one another.
Absolutely. Two things immediately come to me. One is use the things that we already have in place. Right? You mentioned you're a supervisor. You have a meet and confer now, a union, to have those conversations and then to bring forward that voice in a coordinated way into processes within the district that are very important. You have that organization to use to communicate outwardly as well. We have a number of committees and organizations and groups around the district that can have these discussions and bring forward their voice in a number of different ways. So first, let's leverage what's already there. Second, I don't want this district to move only as fast as I can think. So by all means, be out there talking to each other, creating ideas, and then send those suggestions forward in the way that's most comfortable for you. If you want to express it to your supervisor, manager, to Ricky, your vice president, by all means do that. If you want to send me an email directly, give me a phone call, show up at the district office, absolutely. I don't get too concerned about how the information comes forward. I'm more concerned about what's the information being communicated and how can I use this. So please engage in that all across the district. You don't need a formal title or a role or a recognized organization to come together in community, have a conversation and start to express that. And so I say use the way that is most comfortable for you to express that, and do it in multiple spaces, right? The more that people know about an idea or a concern, the more conversation around it starts to form and the more quickly it'll rise to a level that we can start to address it and it'll reach me.
Can we also use this as an opportunity to promote the event you're going to have in February that folks can tune into as well?
That's a good idea. February 26th, 3 p.m. I'll be at Mesa College for the venue, but it's going to be broadcast district-wide on Zoom. We're going to do a town hall, what will be the first town hall that I intend, and I see now I need to correct myself. It's at 2 p.m. Wednesday, February 26th. So for this first one, I'm going to have an opportunity for our 2 new trustees to introduce themselves to the district. Then I'm going to do a panel with the job title varies, but the coordinators of our undocumented or Dreamer resource centers, and then a representative from the district office, and then a panel with our Pride Center coordinators and someone from the district office to talk about what is being done already in those spaces, what needs to increase, what do we need to be thinking about in terms of new community relationships or partnerships or expanded services in those areas in response to what we're seeing happening to those communities. So it'll be an opportunity for you to tune in and view that or come to Mesa College in person. As I said, we're going to do this recurring. I don't know exactly what the cadence will be, if it'll be twice a semester. It might be partially in response to things that are happening, but I want to start to open up that space to spotlight what's happening around our district, to create space for ideas to come into the conversation, to elevate the work that so many of you are doing that not very many people know about, to talk about things that are happening at a district-wide level that we need to communicate out and want everyone to hear that message. So thank you for that, Ricky. I would have neglected to do that. I think you have a follow-up.
Yeah, just to add on to what you had shared this morning and our executive group as well. I seen something that Bernice King, the daughter of Martin Luther King, posted just yesterday, which I think sits well with me, and I want to share with you all. She shared there's a difference between being informed and being consumed. Assess needs and strengths, advocate strategically, avoid futile commentary. I think that's just a wonderful thing for us to all remember, to endure and just be healthy in these next 4 years as we have to pivot and navigate the new world for this temporary time.
Thank you for bringing that excellent advice into the space.
Hi, how are you? My name is Dora Mason. I'm the Director of Admissions here at San Diego City College. I was also a student in the 90s. I know I just aged myself. We have an amazing urban campus. However, we have seen a huge increase in things that are occurring on this campus. God made me a woman, which instantly disadvantaged me to a male. We encounter situations where, or I personally have encountered situations where I've had men in the women's bathrooms peeking underneath the bathroom stalls. I've had men performing their own sexual act in the parking lot that I have reported. We recently had 2 individuals that were not students engage in an altercation last week. I want to know what commitment you can make to us within the next 6 months to restore the safety of this campus to our students and our staff. Because again, a person may be able to or want to defend themselves, but we shouldn't be in that position. We have asked for staff bathrooms where we can go in there and not have to worry about students smoking out, about a man sitting on top of the stool and me having to ask a man, excuse me, and then getting this aggressive look like they want to put hands on me. So what can you do to make the women of this campus safe?
So I think there's 2 categories generally of activities that we can do towards that. One is the safety and security enforcement side, which is not my favorite response to that. There does need to be, we have several vacancies within our police officer and campus security officer positions that we've had a very difficult time filling, and actively working with people in culture on solutions towards that. Backfilling some of those spaces, those positions would help to increase the visibility and availability, which creates some natural deterrence to what you're talking about. I think, though, the bigger answer there is around expanding the resources to support our community, because somebody who's engaged in the activities you talked about, I think part of the thing that we need to be thinking about is what's behind the action. right? I have never met a child who was a sexual predator. I have met adults who became sexual predators because of traumas that happened early in their life, right? There is a combination of responses. How do I help that person? How do I see the humanity of that individual and connect them with resources and services that they need, while at the same time making sure that there is a passive deterrence and an active deterrence, that if somebody's going to engage in an activity like you described, that we're able to respond to it immediately and stop it. And that you're not put in the position of having to be the active deterrence to it. There are funding constraints that we have to work through and figure out around that. And one of the reasons we don't have more mental health counselors is the funding for those and how the funding for that gets treated. We've pursued several grants in that area. We haven't succeeded so far. We are in the midst of developing a much larger fundraising campaign for the district and for all the colleges. And resources like that are central to the campaign from the district perspective. And we've already identified foundations and organizations that do philanthropy to fund that kind of work, to be able to position ourselves to receive those funds, to expand those resources. Thinking about something like building housing for City College, the first floor of that building will not have any apartments or housing. It'll be services. It's going to give us a lot more space to be able to bring in services that can be responsive to the needs of community members, both that live in that building and that are adjacent to our community in downtown San Diego. This is a big focus for the county, and there's an opportunity to work with the county both to expand training and development programs for people that want to come to our college and become professionals in that kind of social work, and to bring the county services closer or even onto our campuses. They're short-term things, they're long-term things, but I see this as a much bigger thing to address than just how do we increase a law enforcement presence, for example, in order to deal with it. It's a difficult conversation. It's a difficult thing to solve for. You're gonna need a lot of different people participating in that conversation. It's not just going to be at Chancellor's cabinet. We're not the smartest people in every room by far, right? We need those who are working in these spaces to inform us about what we need to be doing. And then I can go figure out how do we bring the resources to bear to be able to do it.
If I could add real quickly, I'm going to ask John Parker to resend out where the employee-only bathrooms are. And I absolutely commit to, as we build these additional buildings, that will be a factor into these buildings, because we hear a number of you requesting that. And so that is absolutely in the process of the building and the remodeling of some of these facilities. Or if you send me an email requesting the key, you will get a key.
Just time, I think we have 2 people lined up. There's a retirement event I have to get to after this. So I think these are going to be our last 2 questions, unfortunately, today.
Morning, everyone. I just want to say thank you, and to you, Dr. Dick, Dr. Shabazz. I actually ran into this forum because I was going to admissions, so I'm really happy to be here. My question is more so regarding DSPS and students with disabilities. I already had the blessing of hearing you talk about what will be done in regards to undocumented students, since I am a dreamer. COVID was really hard because there's, certain disabilities where being in person is so important, and having the peace of mind and knowing that there is accommodations and they're protected by federal law. Now that all of the fear with the dismantling of the Department of Education and what that entails, what will San Diego City College and California be doing in order to help still protect these accommodations and rights for the disabled?
So I can't speak for exactly what City College will do. I'll defer to President Shabazz on that. Fortunately, the DSPS program is funded at the state level, not the federal level. There is no conversation that I'm aware of about reducing to any degree DSPS services. So I feel very confident that the state's commitment to those programs is strong and will continue. We, as a district, just at this last board meeting, or maybe it's coming up in February, are creating a new job classification that better tailors the work of our classified professionals in DSPS, defines what the responsibilities are, the preparation to be able to do that, and make it distinguish from more generalized student services, technicians, and assistant type classifications, so that we can better align our recruitment and hiring practices with the actual needs of the position. It gets a little bit difficult sometimes to make those translations when it's not clearly spelled out in the classification itself. I think that will be an added benefit in our recruiting, especially as we push that information out publicly, and somebody who has the skill and ability and is interested in working in that role will know that's what that role is. And I don't think we have that clarity right now. You bring up a really timely thing. So this morning, as I was driving into work, I heard a press conference with the president talking about the really unfortunate event last night where a commuter plane coming out of Kansas collided with a military helicopter right at Reagan International Airport. And as we've come to expect, instead of addressing the truth of the situation, he started talking about the FAA's expanded recruitment of individuals with a variety of mental and physical abilities, and suggesting without saying it that maybe the problem was that an air traffic controller with a mental disability was responsible. It was a terrible thing to listen to. But immediately what you're asking about came to my mind of, we're now going to attack individuals with disabilities, apparently. And this is going to be a national conversation suddenly. So I appreciate your question. I think it's absolutely timely. And know that at the state level, I don't see any reduction. DSPS has proposed to get a COLA increase, just like our general funds. Certainly, there will be no reduction at our district level, and I think we've just taken some steps to help strengthen that, and we'll continue to. If there's anything that is missing that you see in our services, don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. Certainly, there will be no reduction.
Hello again, Chancellor Smith. First, I just want to start off by saying that I appreciate your leadership, and I appreciate the specific things that you're doing, to essentially recognize the need for active support, defense and support of our communities, especially undocumented communities of color, et cetera. I guess my question follows a comment. One is that, there is a narrative, and I think it reflects what's happening nationally, but also that it has its own local version, which is that we're a campus under siege because of a growing unhoused or transient population. And this is a false narrative, and I think it's very problematic. 2 years ago, the previous chancellor, who's no longer with us, and I would add here that I'm very glad that you were his replacement, made a comment sitting at a table just like this saying, we're going to, basically I'm paraphrasing, but he says, we're going to increase the police and campus security to deal with the transients. That was the language he used. I was very upset by that. Homelessness and being unhoused in San Diego is a real issue, and it affects not just people who are literally thrown into the streets and who are dealing with mental health, physical health, and other issues. It's our student population as well. We have a significant number of students who would fall into a category of homelessness or homeless, being precarious. San Diego is actually in a crisis situation for especially working class and low-income people of color affording the ability to stay housed. So I just want to push back against the narrative that this is a threat to us, that unhoused people needed to be treated like potential criminals, and any other type of language that essentially is just used to do what the previous chancellor essentially was doing, which was using that narrative to then push to arm police with tasers, to do all kinds of things that essentially were going to protect us from this, from this threat. I would say instead, how can we think about, from the chancellor to the college, how do we think about supporting housing programs for people? How do we think about advocating for that? How do we think about recognizing and understanding the needs of our students, right? And how we can at least account for that in terms of how we understand student need. but definitely not continue to build on this narrative that homeless people are a threat to us. And that we have to begin to install surveillance technologies, we have to put more cops, because these things don't actually, neither do they address the reason why people are becoming more unhoused, nor do they stop the process. It just creates more potential for our students to be harmed and more potential for there to be further problems associated with that. So I guess that's a question. Can we shift to more of a focus on how do we meet and advocate for housing needs instead of just how do we build up a surveillance and policing infrastructure to deal with it? Can we shift?
And thank you, Justin. Let me first say that I absolutely do not subscribe to the notion that someone experiencing homelessness is also a mental health threat, a drug addict, a criminal. Any of the stereotypes around homelessness, I think, are precisely that. They're stereotypes and false. Are there people experiencing homelessness who also have some kind of mental health crisis? Sure. There are plenty of people inside houses that have mental health crisis. These false narratives, unfortunately, frame this in a very binary way. And the law enforcement response, I think, is only necessary when there is a clear and present threat to the physical safety of other people. But the response is not jail and we'll solve this with criminal enforcement, to your point. It's, I don't like talking about things that I haven't actually done, or I don't know for certain they're going to be done. But what we're doing as a district is exploring the possibility. There was a Senate bill passed last year that would allow 2 or more local government agencies with elected boards to come together and form their own separate legal entity that's a housing authority that could then do its own bond and other fundraising measures to build affordable housing. I had a chance to go to Vienna over the summer. The Conrad Prebys Foundation paid to send Vice Chancellor Lori Koski and I, and we studied how their social housing model works. And initially going, I wasn't sure what the value of this was going to be. But as I saw the structural mechanisms they built to be able to fund continuously the construction of affordable housing, the setting the market so that it pushes downward pressure on prices in a way that isn't just the affordable housing they built, but more globally, that there's actually something here that could work if we could get a large enough entity to be able to do it. I have a feeling that a regional housing authority could be that thing. We're not formed yet. I can't say we're going to form. We're in conversations around, but I'm hoping before the spring is over, we'll be announcing that we've been able to do that. And then what a plan would look like where, you know, and I'm not exaggerating, over the course of 2 decades, we could bring 25,000 affordable homes to San Diego in developments that are 5,000 or more in each one, connected to public transit. I mean, there's some really big picture things that are possible, but I'm getting way ahead. And so don't run out and say, I heard Greg say that they're doing this tomorrow, because I can't.
The Chancellor said.
Yeah, I can't say that it will happen, but that's the kind of thing I'm engaged in working on. And separate from that is, I love that we're building housing for City College. The reality is, we really want people to only be there for 2 years, maybe 3, right? And that's not a solution. That's a stopgap. And so separately, I've been talking to all the other higher education and K-12 districts in our area. If we were to think collectively as an education system, and we're building housing where we weren't territorial about, well, this is for your students, this is for my students, but anybody who's at any level of education, their household would qualify to be in here. And we could support somebody from TK to PhD. Like, we could think so much bigger and have such a greater impact. Those are the kind of conversations I'm having around that, along with leaning heavily on those that are working in the space. We need to be doing more. You need to be doing more. We need real solutions to this, not more studies, not more money for people to sit and talk about, but actually start getting to work on addressing the shortage of affordable housing in our region.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's give a City College round of applause for our Chancellor, Greg Smith. Thank you to everybody who's here in person. Thank you to those who are watching. Thank you. Come on out, Caesar and Eric. Come on, Eric. I know Eric is. Look, these folks face some real challenges today. And I want to say thank you for what they did. Also, we had a signer earlier. Thank you to the signer. Let me publicly apologize to those who may have needed a signer. We had someone call out. We will continue to work on getting that right. But thank you to the signer who stayed. So you all know normally if there are not two, they normally don't stay. And so let's give that gentleman a round of applause that he stayed to ensure that we could have a signer. Buckle up, folks. It's going to be an exciting spring, and I know that we're all going to lean in to support our students. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care, everyone. That we could have a signer. Buckle up, folks. It's going to be an exciting spring, and I know that we're all going to lean in to support our students. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.